Pokémon, medicine and martial arts. Welcome back, brave explorers of impossible worlds. We are excited to have you here to continue this odyssey together. Before we continue, everything you'll hear is pure fiction, so please don't try to replicate combat techniques at home. This wonderful story and all its rights belong to its brilliant original author. We are only the messengers of entertainment. Want another dose of adventure? Subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a single chapter, and if you can't wait, our Patreon has exclusive surprises you'll love. Chapter 201 The Poor Professor Oak. Amidst the idyllic beauty of Pallet Town, a devastating scream erupted from within the Oak Laboratory. It completely shattered the tranquil atmosphere of the small town. It caught the attention of people working in the fields and children playing with Pokémon on the streets. They all paused in unison, looking towards the source of the screams, the Oak Laboratory. As if completely unconcerned, as if completely accustomed to it, after their initial curiosity, they returned their gaze to their own activities and continued on with their daily business. However, they could still hear occasional conversations about Professor Oak. Oh. How many times do you think Professor Oak has screamed this week? Well, I don't know. But it shouldn't be less. At least 2 or 3 times a day. This week, it's not 20 times, but it should be more than 10 times. To be honest, Professor Oak is so famous, but it's too hard. He has to take care of so many Pokémon by himself, and he doesn't even hire an assistant to help him, yet. I heard before that he was so busy with research that he even forgot to eat. Sometimes he eats instant noodles for every meal of the day. Hey, hearing what you said, it reminds me, didn't he have a little assistant named Yu a few years ago? Yet, with that little guy, Oak's work is indeed a lot easier. At least he can have a hot meal every meal. This was a discussion between adults. Hey, Professor Oak, you're so cool. Playing with Pokémon again, and with so many of them. I'm so envious, Xiaomao, I'm so envious of you having a professor grandfather. You get to play with Pokémon every day, unlike us who sometimes have to sneak into the forest to find Pokémon to play with. What's more, that's not all. Sometimes we even encounter a swarm of Beedrills. At the foot of the hill above Oak's research center, 5 or 6 children were playing around a Pidgeot and a Sandshrew. They had all recovered from the screams and were chatting among themselves. There were both boys and girls among the 5 children, but 2 boys were the most striking. One had a spiky haircut and fashionable clothes. Although still young, he looked like a handsome man who'd attract thousands of girls when he grew up. This was evident from the 2 little girls surrounding him, their eyes sparkling. The other boy, while not as charming as the previous one, had a sunny aura, the kind that made people want to be friends at first sight. Tisk, what's so great about that? Haha, really? I seem to remember Xiaozhi, you seem to be running to my grandfather all the time, no matter what, Xiaomao said jokingly. Of course I wouldn't. I only go there once every 2 or 3 days. Besides, I was visiting Professor Oak and asking about you. Xiaozhi immediately got angry and hurriedly defended himself. Indeed, these 2 boys were Xiaozhi and Xiaomao's enemies. Oh. Really? Xiaomao deliberately dragged out the word ma. Of course, Xiaozhi's words were initially full of confidence and assurance, but under the intense gazes of Xiaomao and the surrounding friends, he couldn't help but falter. He said weakly, okay, of course I admit it. While I was visiting Professor Oak, I also went to find the Pokémon in his backyard and played with them for a while, just a little while, as if afraid his friends wouldn't believe him. Xiaozhi placed his thumb and index finger at a distance, emphasizing his words. Xiaomao suddenly laughed inexplicably. What are you laughing at? Is this funny? Xiaozhi, already feeling embarrassed and angry at having his words exposed, said. Xiaomao continued to tease, ignoring Xiaozhi. Is this really funny? Xiaozhi was already furious. However, Xiaomao's teasing voice echoed again, as if deliberately teasing Xiaozhi. Xiaomao, you did this on purpose, didn't you? You want to fight? Xiaozhi finally couldn't help but explode. HMPH. Go ahead and fight. I'm not afraid of you, come on. Provoked by his childhood nemesis, Xiaomao couldn't help himself. He rolled up his sleeves and prepared to fight. Hey, Xiaozhi, don't be impulsive, my sister said good friends shouldn't quarrel, yeah. Xiaomao, we're all good friends, but before they could start fighting, the other man and 2 women, with their quick eyes and hands, intervened. Even so, neither side was willing to show weakness in front of the other. Even as they were restrained, their legs kept kicking forward. Alright. You're both in the wrong, so apologize and forgive each other. One of the girls, seeing the situation was under control, intervened. HMPH. Who wants to make peace with him? Tisk. Who wants to make peace with him? Xiaomao jerked his head to the right, while Xiaozhi jerked his to the left. They snorted in unison, both looking incredibly arrogant. His gaze returned to the Oak Research Institute. Professor Oak, looking at his finger, swollen like a sausage, felt a pang of tears. The giant crab stood by with an innocent look on its face, foaming from its mouth. But what the hell are those crescent-shaped eyes of yours? Huff. After blowing on his finger a few times, Professor Oak finally felt better. He squatted down again, looking at the malnourished giant crab, still feeling a bit of fear. Okay. Now that we know each other, can you cooperate with me in this experiment? Professor Oak took a few pieces of paper from the table and tied them around the pinched finger, as if this would give him a sense of security. Then, he cautiously poked the giant crab again, as if to greet it. Big claw. The giant crab tilted its head, as if seriously considering Professor Oak's question. Professor Oak simply waited. This was a common occurrence for him. Normally, he'd hide in one spot for a whole day, completely absorbed in studying a single Pokémon. As if contemplating it, the crab finally crawled closer to Professor Oak. But, don't cut my clothes. He's innocent. No, that's my important research material, you can't cut it. And that, for a moment, the entire research facility was filled with Professor Oak's wails. Chapter 202 Gift. Forgetting Professor Oak's wailing for a moment, let's turn our attention back to Yu. Oblivious to the chaos unfolding at Professor Oak's, Yu had already returned to the Pokémon Center lobby with Pikachu. Inside the Pokémon Center, Miss Joy had already left to tend to her work. Meanwhile, Air and the other two girls were still discussing something, seemingly delighted. Seeing Yu return, Serena couldn't help but ask curiously, Yu, who asked for you? Oh. Professor Oak asked for me. Huh? Professor Oak? What did he ask for? Doesn't he usually have a lot on his plate? Having attended Professor Oak's summer camp, Serena knew him well. She was also the only one of the three girls to have personally interacted with him, hence her question. Yet, it's nothing. I just haven't contacted Professor Oak in a while, and he missed me, so he reached out. He also asked me a few questions and asked for a Pokémon for research. Is that so? But then again, I haven't seen Professor Oak in ages either. Yu's words made Serena miss the old man, always in his white coat and with a kind smile. If you miss Professor Oak, you can come back with me to see him then. Yu smiled soothingly, as if sensing Serena's thoughts. Yet, Serena's face flushed slightly, and her voice was as low as a mosquito's. She chuckled and shook her head. Then Yu looked at his son and daughter and asked, what were you doing just now? You seem so happy. Share it and have some fun. There's nothing happy to share. His son rolled his eyes at Yu. We were discussing Miss Ma Xiu's upcoming fashion show. I'm really looking forward to seeing her again. Miss Ma Xiu and Xiaozu, of course, finally spoke up for Yu. Miss Xiaozu, I remember you mentioned her before. And if I'm not mistaken, Miss Ma Xiu's fashion show in Aromatherapy City should be in 2 weeks. Yu stroked his chin, lost in thought. Yes, Miss Xiaozu is still our friend. And Miss Sharona, too, of course. Air looked at Yu and winked playfully. What? You were talking about Miss Sharona? Could it be the Sinnoh champion, Sharona? Suddenly, as if someone had stepped on his tail, Yu snapped back to his senses and jumped up. His hands trembled with excitement, his lips quivered as he breathed heavily, and his words stuttered. He looked as if he couldn't believe his ears. But the next scene shattered his thoughts. Air smiled and nodded. Yes, we all know her. Not only do we know her, we even fought side by side and went shopping together. Is that true? Yes. It's all true. It happened while you were in seclusion. Xiaozu nodded, confirming the truth. Yu was struck by lightning, screaming wildly in his heart. You know, for a battle fanatic like Yu, both in martial arts and Pokémon, a powerful trainer like Sharona was one of his most desired opponents. Although he knew he might fail, he couldn't help but want to give it a try. Since he had immediately headed to the gym after leaving seclusion, Serena and the others didn't have time to elaborate on many of the events that took place, so he could only give a brief account. Yu was also in a hurry to get to the gym match, so he didn't hear everything very carefully, which led to his expression. By the way, Yu, we have a gift for you. Air winked at Yu playfully. Gifts? Oh, I actually have gifts. Hearing the girls had prepared gifts for him, Yu instantly became excited. SHH. Hush. Let me guess what the gift is. Yu rubbed his chin, pretending to think deeply. Is it a Pokemon? No. Could it be some rare Pokeball? Unfortunately not. Could it be something to eat? A delicacy? No. Air wiggled her finger and laughed triumphantly. Then, Yu mentioned a few more things he'd thought of, but they were all denied. Feeling dejected, he shook his head helplessly. No, I really can't think of anything. You guys tell me the answer. Seeing Yu's expression like a defeated turkey chick, Serena smiled with a look of astonishment. We knew you wouldn't think of it. Then, Air pulled out a high-end looking box from somewhere and handed it to Yu. Dang, this is it. What is this? Can I eat it? You're really pissing me off. Why is your mind always thinking about fighting and eating? Let me tell you, those gloves you have are a limited edition. Serena and I went through a lot of trouble to get them, didn't you know that? Seeing Yu's calm expression, Air immediately acted dissatisfied, leaning on her waist and frowning as she lectured him. Seeing Yu still look bewildered, Xiaoxu couldn't help but explain the whole story. Yu listened in a daze, and in the end, to show his appreciation, Yu immediately opened the box and put on the limited edition gloves. These gloves are really beautiful. Thank you, Yu said shyly, scratching his head. HMPH. What a character. Air rolled her eyes at him unhappily. Xiaoxu and Serena covered their mouths and laughed at the side. Even Pikachu, who was lying on Yu's shoulder, spread his hands helplessly. By the way, Yu, what are your plans next? At this time, everyone started to talk about business. Plans? Of course, we will continue to fight for the silver badge of the gym and qualify for the Kalos League tournament. Oh, I mean, there is also a gym in Aromatherapy City. Why don't you try to challenge that gym? We can also go to the fashion exhibition, Serena suggested. As soon as Serena finished speaking, Yu agreed without thinking. That's fine. It doesn't matter to me which gym I challenge. The stronger the gym, the better. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 203 Free Clinic. After the girls and Yu decided on their future destination, Serena and the other girls gathered together again and talked about some topics between girls. However, Yu seemed a little out of character this time. A battle maniac can't sit still. When he has time, he's either fighting with others or doing special training with Pokemon. But this time, Yu actually sat on the soft sofa with his arms folded across his chest, staring blankly at the front, his eyes a little vacant, and no one knew what he was thinking. He didn't even notice that Pikachu had gotten off his shoulder and was lying on his legs. He just sighed from time to time to prove that he didn't fall asleep while sitting there. Pikachu, what's wrong with Yu? He just got a gift, shouldn't he be happy now? Why is he sighing instead? Serena, the most attentive of the three girls to Yu's affairs, didn't bother Yu, but instead couldn't help but ask Pikachu, who was lying on Yu's legs, hoping it could give her an answer. Pika, but it was destined to be disappointed. Pikachu was still a little confused. With a confused look on his face, he laid down on Yu's legs and stood on the sofa, dancing and calling out to Serena. Look, Pikachu, don't you know? Serena turned to look at Xiaoxu and Air, shaking her head helplessly. Hey, what's wrong with Yu? He was fine just now. I don't know. A boy's face changes like the weather in March. Air looked as if he saw through the world. PFFT. Air, you're wrong. That phrase is used to describe us girls. It doesn't make any difference. Just then, Miss Joy returned, only with a white envelope in her hand. Yu, I forgot, I have another letter from someone else. Miss Joy's gentle voice brought Yu back to his senses, whether from a daze or deep thought. He subconsciously took the envelope from Miss Joy and thanked her. You're welcome. Seeing Yu come to his senses, Serena suddenly asked, Hey, Yu. What were you thinking about just now? You were so lost in thought. Nothing much? I was just wondering if there was any way to make money. After all, We've been spending all that time these days, and all those alliance coins we won from the competitions have been spent. If this continues, we'll probably be left with nothing." Yu was also helpless. He didn't know how expensive food and clothing were until he was in charge of the household. He had always been out in the wild and had no idea what they were. Most of the expenses that day had been paid for by Yu, and his wallet, which had been bulging, had deflated. "Yu, I'm sorry. I'll give you the money back now," Xiaoxu quickly realized. Yes, Serena and Air nodded in agreement. Yu, however, appeared quite nonchalant, waving his hand nonchalantly, his tone as if money were nothing more than dirt. No, money is just a thing, and people like us in the martial arts world don't really care about it. Besides, we're good traveling companions. No, that's two different things. Besides, didn't you say in your post that brothers should settle accounts? With that, Xiaoxu prepared to return to her room, retrieve the alliance coins from her backpack, and return them to Yu. Really? No. My senior sister once said it's only natural for men to earn money for women. As soon as Yu finished speaking, the three women's cheeks flushed bright red, and they fumbled with their words. Their movements were perfectly synchronized, their gazes fixed on their toes, their fingers fiddling with the hems of their clothes. For a moment, the atmosphere in the corner of the hall grew somewhat ambiguous. The most awkward situation at this moment was for Miss Joy, who was standing nearby. It was difficult to leave or stay. Of course, there was one exception, our protagonist, the steely straight man, Yu. He was completely oblivious to the change in the atmosphere and continued to talk to himself. But with every word he spoke, the three women's cheeks would turn even redder, until they were as beautiful as ripe apples. Wisps of white steam emanated from their heads, like the locomotive of a moving steam train. Finally, even Miss Joy seemed unable to bear it any longer. Suppressing her embarrassment, she interrupted Yu's unending stream. Yu, could you wait a moment? Seeing that Yu had finally listened to his blushing, heart-pounding, and thought-provoking words, Serena and the others finally dared to raise their heads, their gazes fixed on Miss Joy, as if they had seen a savior. Being stared at by four pairs of eyes simultaneously, even someone with ample work experience and social skills couldn't help but feel a tingling sensation on his scalp. Ahem, excuse me for interrupting. I heard you say earlier that you're worried about making money, but I do have a great place to go. While the money isn't much, it should be enough for you to live on for the next while. What good place? Yu and the other women answered almost in unison. It's a free clinic, Miss Joy said, emphasizing each word. Free clinic? Yu was a little confused. Yes, it is, but the free clinic I'm talking about is not just a free clinic. Meyer City is currently holding a national health event, but due to the large population, they're a bit overwhelmed, so they wanted to ask for your help. But don't worry, all the money earned from the free clinic will be yours alone. Miss Joy explained some of the details of the free clinic to Yu. Huh? Yu looked at Miss Joy in surprise. How can you be so sure I can provide free medical treatment? You know, this is a matter of life and death. Haha, then don't forget who I am. I'm Miss Joy from the Pokémon Center. Sister Yu's sister. Miss Joy still had that sweet professional smile, but why was that smile so smug? Okay, Yu sighed helplessly. What do you think, Yu? Isn't this a good idea? I've heard from the other sisters that your medical skills are incredible, whether it's treating humans or Pokémon. Why not agree? How can I refuse such a good offer? However, the free medical treatment fee will be waived. After all, saving the dying and the wounded, and healing the world is a doctor's duty. How can that be? Miss Joy interrupted Yu anxiously before he could finish. Chapter 204 Guidebook. Looking at Miss Joy, who seemed a little excited, Yu felt an inexplicable strangeness in his heart. It seemed like it was my business whether to ask for money or not, but how come you are even more excited than me now? Sorry. I lost my composure. Miss Joy also had some reaction at this time. She was really a little too extreme just now. Yu, don't think too much about it. Maybe this is just my personality. I don't like to owe others anything, even if they are my relatives or people I don't know at all. I understand, but Miss Joy, please wait for me to finish my point of view. If there's anything wrong later, it's not too late for you to speak up. Yu nodded lightly. Serena and the other two girls stood aside, quietly listening to the conversation between Yu and Miss Joy. Miss Joy nodded a little embarrassedly, indicating that Yu could speak, completely losing her previous momentum. Thank you, Miss Joy, for thinking of me. But I actually think this way. As a doctor, let's not talk about the most basic things about a doctor's duties. Since you know I have medical skills, you should also know that what I studied is Chinese medicine, and all my skills are in it." Yu paused at this point. As Yu spoke, Miss Joy nodded in agreement from time to time, like a good student listening carefully to the teacher's lecture. And as a fellow medical student, you should also know that traditional Chinese medicine is one of the traditional arts of China. However, due to its age and certain unforeseen circumstances, more and more people are turning away from it and instead advocating for Western medicine. I'm not saying this to accuse them of being Westernite. After all, whether it's traditional Chinese medicine or Western medicine, the goal is to cure illnesses and save lives. It's just a matter of how quickly the results are achieved. What I want to do is to promote the traditional Chinese medicine I've learned through this event, so that more people will learn about its wonders and gain a deeper understanding and trust in it, rather than, you had always harbored a grand ambition, to promote and spread the power of Chinese martial arts, whether it be medicine, martial arts, or culture. Therefore, whenever an opportunity presented itself, he would seize it without hesitation. This time, the free clinic Miss Joy mentioned was a perfectly appropriate opportunity. He preferred not to receive alliance coins as compensation, instead holding it as a free public welfare event, simply to promote the profound spirit and wonder of Chinese martial arts, allowing more people to understand and appreciate its profound spirit and wonder. After hearing Yu's thoughts, Miss Joy remained silent for a long time, her eyes looking at him with a complex expression. But the moment she met Yu's resolute gaze, she knew she had been persuaded, her principles broken for the first time. Perhaps she saw in that moment the ancestors of the Joy family, who, like Yu, had braved the opposition and persevered, becoming a magical beast doctor, a feat others dared not even dream of. With the passage of time, they would now be called Pokémon nurses or doctors, and the Joy family's ancestors played an indelible role in this. This is why the Joy family enjoys such great prestige in modern times, even surpassing the Juncha family. Yu, after a moment of silent gaze, Miss Joy finally smiled brightly. This time a smile that was infinitely more vibrant than her usual professional smile. "Okay, Yu, you've convinced me. We won't be giving you the fees from the free clinic. We'll use them to help you promote Chinese traditional medicine. Don't refuse. This isn't compensation, it's a marketing ploy to get you to promote the free clinic." Yu felt a little embarrassed by what he said, scratching his head awkwardly. "That's it, then. Just let me know when the free clinic starts. But can we start earlier? We need to get to Aromatherapy City, where there's a fashion show going on, and Air and the others really want to see it." "Wow, you guys are so sweet. But of course we'll agree to the little doctor's request." Miss Joy saw that everything they wanted to say was agreed, but she couldn't help but joke. "Thank you so much, Miss Joy." Yu gave Miss Joy a Chinese martial arts salute. "You're welcome." At this moment, Miss Joy, in a playful mood, followed Yu's lead and performed a proper Chinese martial arts salute. "Great, congratulations, Yu." The three girls who were listening were also very happy for Yu and offered their congratulations. "Okay, then you guys continue chatting. I have something else to do, so I'll go first. The free clinic will start tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. I'll let you know then." Miss Joy, not wanting to be shown off anymore, also said goodbye and left. After Miss Joy left, Yu finally had time to open the envelope. Seeing Yu looking at the envelope, Serena and the other girls didn't want to disturb him and picked up Pikachu to play with him. Strange, who would write to me? Could it be the master? Curious, Yu slowly opened the envelope. Inside was a piece of paper, and the contents on the paper were very simple, a name and a short sentence. "Yes. Jingxin left it for me." It turned out that when Jingxin Yu was collecting gym badges and preparing to participate in the Kalos League tournament, he had already understood that Yu would definitely stay at the Pokemon Center in Mire City, hence the letter. The letter stated that the exchange meeting would be held in a small town called Fangshou Town, and that it would be held in 2 weeks. It also specified some requirements for the event. 2 weeks later? Would that be 3 days after that fashion show? Yu pondered for a moment, looking at the time in his mind. Then, he called out to Serena, who was chatting nearby. "Hey, Serena." Serena was holding a guidebook she had made herself. After Serena joined the group, she had arranged most of the route, acting as their guide. "What's wrong?" Serena trotted over at Yu's sudden call. "Serena, help me look up a place called Fangshou Town." "Where is it?" Is it far from here? Yu raised the envelope to Serena. Let me see. Selena took out the guidebook she had made from her bag and carefully looked up the place called Fangsa Town. Chapter 205 Teaching. Let me look. Her fingers flicked across the pages, her eyes scanning each one, afraid to miss something important. But she flipped through the pages so quickly, you could almost read 10 lines at a glance. Finally, her finger rested on a page, her eyes gleaming with joy. I found it. Fangsa Town is a long way from here. If we rush, it'll take at least half a month to get there. What do you mean by half a month? Yiyu's eyes widened after hearing Serena's figure, nearly jumping up and down in anger. Fuck. Is this vigilant? Someone has the ability to calculate? It takes half a month to get there. Doesn't that mean we have to eat later, sleep tonight, and start traveling non-stop tomorrow morning? That way, if nothing goes wrong, we'll barely make it. And if we do that, the free clinic and the fashion show Serena and the others said they were going to attend will be ruined. Yiyu, what's wrong with you? Serena couldn't help but look at Yiyu with concern, seeing his furious and frantic expression. Even the commotion here once again attracted Air and Xiaoxu, who also looked at Yiyu with concern and curiosity. Well, here's the thing. Yiyu then spoke out his worries one by one, his words filled with helplessness. So, Yiyu, are you worried about the exchange meeting now, yet? This is really a terrible choice. If I choose the exchange meeting, then I won't have time for either the free clinic or the exchange meeting. And if I don't choose the exchange meeting, then this rare opportunity will be missed again. Yiyu now wished so much that he had the ability to clone himself. How great would it be to split himself in half directly? There would be no need to make any choices. Looking at Yiyu, who was almost going crazy with distress, Xiaoxu suddenly smiled, and there was an indescribable sense of relief in her words. I thought it was something else. After all, isn't it just a matter of time? Well, Xiaoxu, do you have any good ideas? Air immediately became interested. That's right, Xiaoxu, if you have any ideas, just tell me now. I'm really worried sick. Serena felt like she was being tickled by a cat. She felt so uncomfortable that she couldn't help but run up to hug Xiaoxu and pretend to tickle her armpits. Yiyu didn't have the hesitation as before. He looked at Xiaoxu with hope, waiting for her to come up with a good idea. As if affected by the atmosphere, Pikachu also tilted his head back. Ha, Serena, stop. I surrender. Xiaoxu kept begging for mercy, as if succumbing to Serena's tyranny. Do you know how powerful I am? Then tell me the truth quickly. Why are you still keeping me in suspense? Serena stretched out her delicate hands and waved them casually in the air, which was full of threats. Okay, seriously. Actually, you don't know this. When I was helping Miss Joy, she mentioned that after you finished helping with the free clinic, a car would be sent to Aromatherapy City. Seeing that everyone was listening attentively to Yiyu, even nodding in agreement, Xiaoxu's smile widened, her eyes gleaming with wisdom. Besides, I just looked in Serena's guidebook and found that Fangsa Town is not far from Aromatherapy City. It should only take about 3 days to get there. That way, we can both get there without delay. Huh? There's even that, Serena exclaimed in surprise. Okay. In that case, I've decided. Pikachu, come with me and continue the special training. Don't let these things let you slack off. Seeing that his worries had been resolved, Yiyu felt relieved and called Pikachu. However, their target this time was no longer the Pokémon Center's backyard battle arena, but the Pokémon Center's unique Pokémon rehabilitation training room. The three girls were not surprised by this and just shook their heads helplessly. Well, in that case, I'll go cook first. After all, we need to celebrate a little for Yiyu. Xiaoxu spoke first. Do you need any help? If you need any help, we can help you. Not for now, then if there's anything else later, I'll ask you for help. Okay, enough talking, I'm going to cook first. I'll ask you for help later if you need anything. Don't worry, I'll be there whenever you call. After watching Xiaoxu carrying bags of food into the cafeteria, Serena and Air exchanged a tacit glance. Let's go, Serena. Since there's nothing else we can help with right now, let's get started on our Pokémon performance training. Yeah, let's go to the backyard of the Pokémon Center. Unlike Pokémon trainers, we performers must perform under the spotlight. The Pokémon Center is a perfect natural stage for this. I want to see if you're stage frightened under the spotlight. That's the first step. Air continued to explain to Serena as she continued to walk out. Serena listened intently, practically taking notes in her notebook. But just as they were about to reach the backyard gate of the Pokémon Center, Air suddenly stopped and looked at Serena sternly. Air, what's wrong with you? You're so serious all of a sudden." Serena stopped too, a little puzzled. She had been fine just a moment ago. "Serena, what I want to say next is that being a Pokémon performer isn't any better than being a trainer. It's certainly tough for a trainer to train Pokémon just for the sake of victory, but that's only true for some people. Some give up before they even begin. But for us performers, it's different. It requires not only accumulated experience but also a relentless determination to persevere. After all, our performance competitions, like those for coordinators, have a very high elimination rate, and only one competitor can emerge victorious at each tournament." As Air finished speaking, Serena nodded solemnly. Serena, don't be so nervous. Half of this is what my teacher taught me." Chapter 206 Free Clinic begins. As the night faded, the setting sun shone across the earth, and the sun reigned supreme over this world for another day. A new day was about to begin. The morning sun streamed through the window into a room at the Pokémon Center. Yu was up early, as usual. The only difference was that he wasn't about to start special training with his Pokémon early in the morning. Instead, he stood in front of the bathroom mirror, meticulously getting dressed. That's right, you heard it right. Last night at dinner, Miss Joy had already told him that the free clinic would be held today, so he decided to dress up. It wasn't just to look cool, but to promote Chinese culture and martial arts. He first tied his long, beautiful black hair into a crown, then changed into a pure white robe, the traditional Chinese scholar's robe, emblazoned with orchids, and a pair of shoes with a pattern of auspicious clouds descending from the sky. The reflection in the mirror even clearly revealed a jade pendant with a dragon and phoenix pattern dangling from his waist, giving him the image of a refined and elegant gentleman. If Xiaozhi or Ma Xiu were here, their eyes would surely light up, praising him endlessly and even trying to get Yu to join the modeling group. Pikachu, sprawled on the bed not far away, was practically speechless. Is this still my old master? When did he become so narcissistic? Even before dawn, he's already dressing up like a little girl. Looking at his reflection in the mirror, Yu pondered, feeling a sense of dissatisfaction. After a moment's contemplation, he pulled a dagger from his stored ring and hung it on his other waist. That's much better. Seeing Yu in the mirror, looking transformed with his sword, he nodded with satisfaction. Then he left the bathroom, greeted Pikachu, and flung the door open. Arriving at the Pokémon Hall, to avoid disrupting the Pokémon Center's operations, the Pokémon Hall had undergone a night of renovations, with a small area already designated as a consultation area. As this highly anticipated free clinic had attracted considerable attention, Miss Joy hadn't invited only Yu. Almost all of Mire City's renowned medical professionals had been invited. These experts had already arrived early to inspect the various equipment at the Pokémon Center. Perhaps because today was a significant day, Yu's Pokémon hadn't gone to the backyard for training. Instead, they followed Serena and the others, following Miss Joy's lead, silently observing the bustling scene before them. Seeing Yu arrive, the women's eyes lit up. Even Miss Joy, who had seen all sorts of people, couldn't help but stare in amazement. Yu, dressed in ancient attire, exuded the air of a fallen immortal, untouched by the mundane world. It felt as if he was present yet unreachable. But with a Pikachu cradling his shoulder, he even seemed to have a more approachable air. Yu, what are you wearing? Miss Joy asked uncertainly. Oh, you mean this outfit? It's a unique garment in Chinese culture, called Hanfu. Since we're promoting Chinese traditional arts and Chinese medicine this year, we might as well include culture in the mix. Yu exuded a calm and detached aura, his words brimming with matter-of-factness. Oh, okay, Miss Joy twitched her lips, but then dismissed the matter. She bowed to Yu. Then I'll trouble you today. By the way, do you need any equipment? I can find it for you right now. No, I have this. Yu, seemingly a magic trick, produced a bag of silver needles and waved them before Miss Joy's eyes. Yu, do you look handsome today? At this moment, Serena and the other two girls also came up, their first words, perhaps a sincere outpouring of truth. Serena, are you really saying this? Or is it just a compliment out of habit? Air insisted and teased with ill intention. Immediately, Serena's face turned red, and she was a little afraid to look at Yu. She quickly turned around and pretended to play with Air. I think Serena is right. Yu is really handsome today. Before they could wrestle with each other, Xiaoxu looked at Yu with sparkling eyes. Hey, Xiaoxu. I didn't expect you to be like this. Seeing Serena looking at herself with a smug and happy face, Air pouted and stomped her feet. What you said is the fact. Don't you think so? Xiaoxu's lips curled up beautifully, but why did that smile feel full of oppression? Air choked at the question, but then, amid the stunned crowd, she said, quite simply, he's handsome. I think he's handsome too. Alright, stop it, Miss Joy said, pausing at the right moment. Then I'll be over first. I'll leave Pikachu to you guys to take care of. Yu lifted Pikachu from his shoulder and handed it to Serena. Don't worry, Serena nodded, looking down at Pikachu and smiling. Pikachu, let's go. Let's not disturb Yu. I'll make you some delicious bowfallow. After handing Pikachu to Serena, Yu's aura once again became extraordinary. The area designated for the temporary free clinic was originally a rest area at the Pokémon Center. This rest area, now known as the free clinic area, had been divided into several sections, and internal medicine, surgery, traditional Chinese medicine. Entering the free clinic area, Yu didn't even bother to greet the other doctors, nor did he show any interest in getting to know them. He simply headed straight for his traditional Chinese medicine department. At this point, the free clinic hadn't even begun. Compared to the doctors who were discussing animatedly, Yu just sat there quietly, looking completely out of place. Hey, who's that? He walked into the free clinic, and the security staff didn't stop him. He's traveling with us, right? I don't think so, since he's so young. I also think I saw a Pikachu on his shoulder. He looks more like a Pokemon trainer. I agree. Did you see he's got a sword hanging from his waist? Chapter 207 Patient. Hey, look. He's actually heading towards the traditional Chinese medicine area. Well, how is that possible? Although I haven't studied traditional Chinese medicine, we've heard that learning it requires years of experience. Those who have achieved a certain level of success are now either elderly or at least middle-aged. But someone like him should be around the same age as my child. Hey, now that you're talking, I finally remember. I saw that strange outfit he was wearing before, and it always felt like I'd seen it somewhere before. Now that you've reminded me, I finally remember its ancient Chinese Hanfu. Since the free clinic hadn't started yet, many acquaintances were gathered, chatting and chatting. When Yu, a somewhat unconventional figure, entered, they began to discuss the matter. One of the doctors, Ryo Mitsuya, pondered the matter and finally figured out the origins of Yu's outfit. Mr. Mitsuya, how did you know? Another doctor, who knew Ryo Mitsuya, asked curiously. Since I'm really interested in my local culture, I did some research, and I came across this Hanfu. The doctor, named Mitsuya Ryo, couldn't help but let out a smug laugh at the end. Haha, so to speak, I've only ever known a little bit, huh? Who cares if he's real or not? Once the event starts, we'll see how good he is. Yeah. Let's all wait and see. Amidst the chuckles, someone suddenly interjected, unseemly. And even if he knows Chinese medicine, so what? Ultimately, Chinese medicine isn't trustworthy, just like quack doctors or those vague witchcraft techniques. Scams like these should be hidden from public view, to avoid attracting attention. Because the voice was so low, and amidst the laughter and chatter, only the people around him who spoke it could hear it. Of course, this doesn't rule out accidents, like Yu, who, though seemingly resting with his eyes closed, was actually twitching his ears. As a martial arts master, Yu's hearing was incredibly sharp. He could easily detect even the smallest sound, or the target's voice amidst a cacophony of noise. He hadn't taken the previous, meaningless speculation and conversation seriously, and even filtered them out. But when he heard the following statement, which Yu considered an insult to traditional Chinese medicine, he nearly exploded with anger. However, reason forced him to suppress his turmoil. The previously closed eyes suddenly opened, revealing a glare as cold as a knife, glaring at the person who had spoken, like a wrathful Vajra. Because the other person was ordinary, Yu's attack lacked any internal energy, but it radiated the aura of a martial arts master. Suddenly, the unknown doctor, who had been gloating over his words, caught Yu's gaze and, like a cynic with its neck strangled, was unable to utter a single word. He even instinctively stepped back. Behind him was a desk he'd used for work, and he'd carelessly swiped it backwards. A complex mixture of fear and emotion filled his eyes. Hey, Hey, what's wrong with you, Yuanshan? Are you feeling unwell? You look so pale. Everyone, get ready. The free clinic is about to begin. Just as the rude doctor, Yuanshan Hisanobu, was about to collapse under Yu's pressure, his lips trembling like a sieve, Miss Joy's voice suddenly rang out, accompanied by the sound of Yuanshan Hisanobu wiping the sweat from his forehead with a look of relief. The moment Miss Joy spoke, Yu, like a master, withdrew his prestige, leading to the scene of Yuanshan Hisanobu wiping his sweat with relief. Don't think this is surprising. After all, there's a saying in the Chinese martial arts world, the Grandmaster's prestige cannot be violated. This demonstrates just how terrifying the power a Grandmaster possesses. As everyone sat and waited, citizens finally began to arrive. Despite the large crowd, no one came to Yu's traditional Chinese medicine clinic. Instead, the other departments were packed. For a moment, Yu's clinic seemed quite deserted. However, Yu wasn't worried at all, appearing completely composed and even closing his eyes to rest. Ah! What's going on over there, Yu? It's so deserted, not a single person. Watching from afar, Ayer couldn't help but feel anxious for Yu. I don't know, but don't worry. Traditional Chinese medicine doesn't really have much influence here. Xiaoxu, who often consulted Yu on medical matters, seemed much calmer. Hey, Ayer, look! Someone's coming to see you. Suddenly, a sharp-eyed person spotted someone heading toward the traditional Chinese medicine area. He excitedly shook Ayer's arm and pointed ahead. Following Xiaoxu's gaze, they saw someone near the free clinic area. What caught their eye was a young man dressed in fashionable, somewhat uncouth attire, with a cocky smile on his face. He swaggered toward Yu's traditional Chinese medicine area. His unique demeanor made it easy to overlook the elderly man in front of him. 4 lines ahead of him was a man in plain clothes, with graying hair and a cane in hand. Perhaps because the other departments were full, Yu's traditional Chinese medicine department seemed deserted, which was why the two of them had come. Seeing someone finally arrive, Yu sat up straight, awaiting their arrival. Traditional Chinese medicine, the table was labeled in both Japanese and Chinese, and the man was taken aback when he saw it. Yes, this is the Department of Traditional Chinese Medicine. Excuse me, sir, are you feeling unwell? Oh, hello. Doctor, my name is Zifuchi Mujin. May I know where your traditional Chinese medicine doctor is? Zifuchi Mujin was very polite. Yes, I am. What can I do for you? Yu asked politely. In fact, he had already noticed some of his symptoms before Zifuchi Mujin arrived. After all, the traditional Chinese medicine method of observation, smelling, questioning, and palpation is no joke, but he still asked out of professionalism. Chapter 208 Making Trouble. Looking at the young man before him, who was much younger than his own son, Zifuchi Mujin could hardly believe his ears. After all, due to his own ailments, he had consulted numerous leading medical experts, and thus he had learned about traditional Chinese medicine, a martial art from neighboring China, which included many so-called TCM practitioners. He had also learned from the doctors who had treated him that to achieve success in traditional Chinese medicine, one had to be at least 30 years old. How could such a young man be possible? As if sensing Zifuchi Mujin's distrust, Yu remained calm, a disarming smile playing across his lips. Mr. Zifuchi, huh? If I'm guessing correctly, you must have suffered a severe lung injury in your youth, leaving behind a chronic illness. As soon as he finished speaking, the hesitation and disbelief on Zifuchi Mujin's face vanished, replaced by a look of deep shock. How did you know? When he was young, while on a field trip, he accidentally provoked a mad Kintaro, whose horn struck his lung, nearly rupturing it. Medical care was limited at the time, and while he survived, he was left with a hidden illness. As he aged, the illness began to flare up, especially in recent years. His lungs ached daily, making it difficult for him to sleep soundly. Just as Zifuchi Mujin was still in shock, an impatient male voice boomed from behind. Hey, old man. Are you still going to see me or not? If you don't want to be cured, then get out of the way. I'm in a hurry. With that, the young man standing behind Zifuchi Mujin immediately cut in line. Zifuchi Mujin might have looked stronger than the young man, but because he was older, he was pushed aside by the old man and nearly stumbled. If Yu hadn't been quick to catch him, Zifuchi Mujin would have hit the corner of the table. Apologize? Yu frowned, his words shrugged. Why? The young man was speaking Chinese, though his tone was rather arrogant. Hearing the familiar language again made Yu pause, then spoke a little more slowly. You still need to queue up for medical treatment, Tisk. What if I don't queue up? You still think you can't treat me? The young man pouted. Then I really won't treat you. Yu's tone also turned cold. Hey, why do you want to fight? You're wearing a sword, quite childish, the young man said jokingly. Then please go out and don't disturb my treatment. Ignoring the young man, Yu helped Zafuki Mujin to sit down. Yo, I said a few words to you, and you are still so arrogant. The young man stretched out his finger and pointed at Yu's chest. If it weren't for the fact that you are also Chinese, and Chinese medicine is a Chinese thing. And if those Western doctors around are all crowded with people, and there is no one here, I, Tang Weijian, would not even want to come. At the end of his words, the young man named Tang Weijian even spat. The noise here quickly attracted the attention of the people around, including some doctors. An expert who seemed to be very good at Western medicine said, although I don't know what symptoms you have, old man, the best way is to go to a large Western medicine hospital. With those more advanced medical equipment, you will definitely be cured. As for Chinese medicine, many of them have no scientific basis at all and can't be useful. Hey, old man, don't blame me for not warning you. This kind of thing is not trustworthy. That doctor just said that, right? Tang Weijian echoed from the side. As soon as he finished speaking, Yu finally couldn't bear it anymore. He could tolerate a fellow medical student saying this, but he couldn't tolerate a compatriot insulting his country's national quintessence like this. Traditional Chinese medicine is a treasure passed down by the ancestors of the Chinese people. As a Chinese, you actually deny the achievements of your ancestors. Isn't it a bit unfaithful? Yu frowned and glared at Tang Weijian, who was still shouting. He was somewhat disgusted with such people. I'm so sorry. This Monday, I officially became a Japanese citizen. My name is now Xiaozhi and Xiaoguang. Ha Tang Weijian, oh no, that should be Xiaozhi and Xiaoguang now, with a smirk on his face. Yu was so angry that he almost cursed. Are other countries really that good? They actually allow people to betray their own country, abandon their ancestral surnames, and spurn their own bloodline under the guise of forgetting their roots. Yu felt deeply distressed. Although he was a martial artist, every member of the Jianghu community shared a heart of loyalty and patriotism. This was why, despite the constant fighting between the Jianghu sects, they never harmed the interests of the nation. Even when the country was in trouble, all the Jianghu members would put aside their grudges and gather together to fight the enemy and overcome the difficulties. And to be honest, Western medicine did have its unique advantages, but the Chinese people had inherited thousands of years of profound and extensive traditional Chinese medicine. How could someone who knew nothing about it just judge it? Gurgle Xiaozhi and Xiaoguang swallowed furiously as he met Yu's cold, emotionless gaze. But then, feeling embarrassed, he forced himself to avoid meeting Yu's eyes, his voice trembling as he said, "What are you staring at? You think you're so impressive by staring wide-eyed, don't you?" As if trying to redeem himself, Xiaozhi and Xiaoguang pulled out a Pokémon and tossed it. Before anyone could react, a spitting bear appeared in the arena. Spitting bear, come on. Give him a good lesson. Spitting bear. The spitting bear, unconcerned with the surroundings, leapt at Yu at the command of its master. You're trying to stir up trouble. Yu frowned, and a silver needle suddenly appeared on his finger, which he flung out with lightning speed. The silver needle flew out with a piercing sound, accurately piercing the charging bear. The bear, which had been running furiously, suddenly became unable to move its limbs. Furthermore, due to the inertia caused by its previous intense running and sudden stop, its body continued to lean forward. After Yu helped Zafuki Mujin up, he hurried forward and, with a push, stopped the bear's momentum, preventing any major chaos in the entire area. For the new week, please vote for recommendations, give 5-star reviews, comment, and reward. Chapter 209, Zafuki Hibiscus. Stop it, all of you. Fighting is prohibited in the Pokemon Center. Miss Joy, who usually exudes a gentle, warm demeanor, now has a sullen expression on her face, her words devoid of even a trace of emotion. Miss Joy, I'm sorry. Realizing he'd violated the rules, Yu hastily apologized, his face remaining expressionless. Tisk. Come back, Xiaozhi and Xiaoguang snorted, and under Miss Joy's annoyed gaze, he retracted the sign. Traditional Chinese medicine is a treasure passed down by our ancestors. It's fine for you to embrace Western medicine, But you don't understand it, yet you're here to arbitrarily deny it. This is disrespectful to Chinese culture. You've arbitrarily changed your country and surname, betraying the nation that gave you life. Aren't you ashamed? Yu Yu's words were eloquent, tinged with murderous intent. Meanwhile, he sighed inwardly. Honestly, in this day and age, there aren't many people who hold such a firm belief in Chinese culture as Yu Yu does. Too many have long been mesmerized by the supposedly beautiful life and culture abroad. Xiaozhi and Xiaoguang was so enraged that he couldn't even speak. He pointed at Yu Yu with a trembling finger, his face flushing. HMPH. What do you mean by you? I've never seen such a shameless person in my entire life. Yu Yu's words were clear and melodious, a trace of internal strength in his voice. Puff, as the words fell, a trickle of blood oozed from the corner of the young and energetic Xiaozhi and Xiaoguang's mouth. He then clutched his chest and ran out of the Pokémon Center without even a glance back, not even able to utter a harsh word. Ms. Joy, I'm so sorry. Watching the far send, Yu Yu approached Miss Joy, bowing his head and speaking apologetically. It's okay, it's okay. Yu Yu, just go ahead and do your own thing. Look, the old gentleman sitting over there is getting impatient. Seeing Xiaozhi and Xiaoguang running away, Miss Joy smiled sweetly again. Seeing that Yu Yu was still feeling a little guilty, she quickly pointed at Xiaozhi who had returned to his chair and was waiting to change the subject. Then Miss Joy, I'll go do my own thing first. Yu Yu also reacted at this time. She was so angry just now that she actually forgot about the important things. Go, go, Miss Joy waved her hand playfully. Returning to the free clinic area, looking at Xiaozhi who was sitting opposite, Yu Yu went straight to the point. Mr. Xiaozhi, what do you think? Do you want me to treat your illness? Xiaozhi didn't know what he was thinking. He didn't say anything, but just quietly looked at Yu Yu who had become calm and composed again. However, Yu Yu believed that Xiaozhi still had some doubts about his abilities. Actually, what those people said before was right. Some aspects of Chinese medicine truly can't be explained by science. It all depends on your choices. Haha, while you consider this a very serious matter, Xiaozhi suddenly burst into laughter. Mr. Xiaozhi, what are you laughing at? This is a very serious matter. I'm laughing, but that's not you just now. Just now, you exuded confidence and pride in Chinese medicine. Why do you seem hesitant now? Okay. Since you trust me so much, Mr. Xiaozhi, I will cure you of these years of ailments. As Xiaozhi finished his words, Yu Yu no longer hesitated. Ignoring the stunned gazes around him, Yu Yu flipped his hand and a silver needle appeared in his hand. While he asked Xiaozhi to remove his shirt, he used his internal energy to disinfect the needle. Yu Yu hadn't previously given this Xiaozhi hibiscus, not because he lacked confidence, but because he needed to gain the patient's trust and cooperation before treatment. As Yu Yu began his work, he failed to notice that among the crowd watching, a pair of bright eyes were fixed on him, filled with a mixture of nervousness and curiosity. Feeling the gazes of those around him, Yu Yu felt a stirring. This might be an opportunity to promote Chinese medicine. His gazes grew heated at the thought. The crowd, upon witnessing Yu Yu's imposing presence, held their breath in awe. Even some doctors, captivated by the atmosphere, involuntarily paused their work and watched the scene unfold with their patients. Of course, some of them were just watching the spectacle. But if someone knew Xiaozhi hibiscus at this moment, they might not be so calm. Instead, they might be apprehensive, or perhaps even approaching to curry favor. Xiaozhi hibiscus was the president of Duan Manufacturing Company, Limited in the Hon region. The various companies under its umbrella boast numerous innovative and advanced technologies. Duan Manufacturing Company, Limited is a business giant worthy of being ranked among Japan's top 10, but that's not the most important thing. What's Xiaozhi's last name? It's Xiaozhi. You know, there's a name everyone in the Hon region knows. And it just so happens his last name is Xiaozhi. That person is none other than Xiaozhi's son, Xiaozhi Dago, champion of the Hon Pokemon League. Then I'll begin. It might be a little uncomfortable, though, so you can scream out, Yu Yu warned. It's okay, just go ahead, as befits a figure in power for years, Xiaozhi spoke with a calm demeanor. Yu Yu's hands moved like lightning, swiftly inserting silver needles of varying lengths into various acupuncture points on Xiaozhi's chest. With twists and flicks of his fingers, his inner energy flowed through the needles, flowing into Xiaozhi's chest meridians, nourishing his damaged lungs. Watching Yu Yu's dazzling yet smooth movements, the horror on the faces of a group of expert doctors who were just watching the show became more and more intense. As Yu Yu's last needle fell, everyone's eyes seemed to pop out of their sockets, whether they knew medicine or not. On Xiaozhi Hibiscus's chest, the silver needles that seemed to be pierced like Zimi were stabbed. The tails of the silver needles kept shaking, as if there was an invisible force pushing them. Is this magic? Oh. I get it, this must be the legend of the Eastern Huaxia country, Eastern magic. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 210 Diagnosis and Treatment. I can't believe it, this is too amazing. Is this some kind of special ability? Like telekinesis, the crowd was already buzzing with excitement, exclamations of surprise echoing continuously. Some of the onlookers, even those with wild imaginations, had already begun to discuss the situation. However, among the crowd, there were also many leading medical experts, and of course, there were also some with discerning eyes. What a bunch of unsophisticated people. This is clearly the legendary key-guided needle technique. Oh my god, this really is key-guided needle technique. Wow, I didn't expect to see this legendary skill when I was busy today. Suddenly, a scream broke out, interrupting the somewhat excited discussion. Among those watching in the crowd, Dago's Fuki felt his heart tighten, for he recognized the scream as coming from his father, Mugen's Fuki. If he hadn't just witnessed Yu Yu's somewhat uncanny skills and his diagnosis of his father's condition, Dago's Fuki would have nearly rushed out to question Yu Yu. Well, the champion is worthy of being the champion. The moment the thought arose, it was immediately suppressed by Xiaozhi Dago. Looking closely, I saw that Xiaozhi Mugen had been sweating profusely since some time, and the veins on his forehead were bulging. Although he clenched his teeth, the pain from his chest still made him scream with determination. Xiaozhi, hold on. Because your lungs were severely damaged before, I am now transmitting internal energy to your chest through silver needles to nourish and repair your lung injuries. Yu Yu seemed to have done nothing, but at this time, his forehead was already covered with fine beads of sweat. It was because the lungs were too important, and the control of internal energy had to be done very precisely, and there could be no carelessness. Therefore, from the treatment to now, 5 minutes have passed, and Yu Yu has been concentrating his mind, which is more tiring than physical exhaustion. It's okay, little brother, you, keep going. I can't hold it in. The pain in his chest caused Xiaozhi Mugen's lips to tremble, his words halting, yet his words were filled with determination. Yu Yu remained silent, concentrating on his movements. This was a crucial moment, and Yu Yu couldn't afford to make even the slightest mistake. Following the waves of intense pain, waves of comfort like a clear spring began to flow through his body, finally converging on Xiaozhi Mugen's chest, nourishing and repairing his damaged lungs. The outside world, completely unaware of this situation, was still in a state of panic. The renowned doctors, one after another, paused their actions in unison and gradually gathered around Yu Yu and Xiaozhi Mugen. Although they hated to admit it, they were deeply curious to see if this young man, who they considered to be barely grown, and traditional Chinese medicine, which they considered to have no scientific basis, could actually perform a miracle. Equally nervous was, of course, the Hone champion, Xiaozhi Dago. If someone were standing before him at that moment, they would undoubtedly have seen his fists clenched with nervousness, veins exposed, and even faintly trembling from the exertion. I didn't expect Sister Masako to be so true. Yu Yu, you really didn't disappoint me. I can now truly believe what I saw. At some point, Miss Joy returned, her brow furrowed with worry finally relaxed. And a smile blossomed on her face. In Japan, Joy families from all regions are generally related. Cousins and even distant relatives are common, and the Junsha family is no exception. As the president of one of Japan's top 10 companies, Xiaozhi Mugen's network of connections is unimaginable. Several Joy family elders also have close connections with him. Otherwise, Joy Manufacturing Company, Limited wouldn't always release new Pokémon medical equipment or medications first to the Pokémon Center. Note, in the Pokémon world, there's more than just the Pokémon Center, there are others. Joey and the others naturally knew about Xiaozhi Hibiscus's situation, and they put a lot of thought into it. Originally, Masako Joy approached Yu last time to ask for his help, but for some reason, he changed his mind. Then, through the Joy family's powerful connections and influence, by chance, Miss Joy from Mire City heard of Yu's distress yesterday, leading to this moment. Of course, the so-called free clinic was actually well planned, otherwise, it wouldn't have been possible to invite Xiaozhi Hibiscus and those renowned medical experts in a single night. Fate is truly a strange thing, preordained. Before this, Miss Joy from Mire City had heard of Yu's remarkable medical skills, both in treating Pokemon and humans. But since it was just hearsay, she was still a little skeptical. But the scene unfolding before his eyes completely convinced Miss Joy of Mire City that Yu possessed remarkable medical skills despite his youth. To this end, she even secretly recorded the treatment process, intending to share it with her sisters after obtaining Yu's consent. Time passed quickly in this tense atmosphere. With the last of the silver needles withdrawn, Yu finally breathed a sigh of relief and smiled, looking up at Xiaozhi Mujin. Mr. Xiaozhi, how are you feeling now? I think I feel something. It's like a surge of air, and it's warm. It's a feeling I've never had before. A hint of excitement crossed Xiaozhi Mujin's somewhat aged face. Ever since his lung injury, he had experienced occasional, dull aches. Though only fleeting, the long-term effects had become unbearable. While it was only a small sign now, it was already a good sign. Xiaozhi Dago, who was in the crowd, also seemed excited, his clenched hands gradually loosening. The tense expression on his face melted like a glacier, becoming sunny and handsome. After all these years, he finally saw signs that his father could regain his health. This is a good sign. It means that Mr. Xiaozhi's hope of recovery is even greater, Yu said with a smile as he skillfully put the silver needles into the cloth bag. Chapter 211 Zafuki Dao. Yes, young man, thank you so much, Xiaozhi Mujin nodded excitedly, his eyes moist. He thought his condition would continue like this, and he was ready to face death as long as he could live one day at a time. However, he did not expect that God would give him a miraculous turn, allowing him to see hope again. My name is Yu, you can also call me Xiaoyu. Yu had a gentle smile on his face, but his fingers were filled with internal energy. Under the puzzled gazes of the crowd, he raised his hand and gently placed it on Xiaozhi Mujin's chest. While gently and slowly pushing and pinching, the internal energy was transmitted through his fingers to the chest and then to the blood vessels and lungs to promote blood circulation in the chest. What is this? Xiaozhi Mujin said hesitantly. It promotes your blood circulation, which is good for your metabolism and your condition. Yu withdrew his hand and sat back in the chair. Taking out a pen and paper, he slowly explained, although I've stabilized your condition, you still need some rest and recuperation. I've written you a prescription. These are very common herbs you can find at any Chinese medicine store. Take one a day for 2 weeks, and you should be almost cured. But avoid spicy food during this time to prevent a relapse. Okay, I'll remember that. Thank you, Xiaoyu. You're truly my benefactor. You've cured an illness I had no hope of ever recovering from. Xiaozhi Mujin took the prescription, carefully folded it, and tucked it into the lining of his shirt. Then, excitedly, he grasped Yu's hands tightly and thanked him. No one could understand his feeling of finally seeing the light at the end of the tunnel in the midst of despair. To save the dying and the wounded is a doctor's duty. Yu wiped the sweat from his forehead and smiled brightly. Deftly removing his hand from Xiaozhi Mujin's, Yu began to organize his supplies, taking out the alcohol lamp and sterilizing each of the silver needles one by one. Originally, Yu could have used the inland area for disinfection, but because it was too physically demanding, and he had to deal with other people later, he could only use this method. Hey, Mr. Xiaozhi, is there anything else you can do? You're not still worried about your condition, are you? You can rest assured. Just follow my instructions and add the medicine on the prescription, and you'll be back to normal. After disinfecting the silver needles, Yu looked up and found that Xiaozhi Mujin was still standing there, with no intention of leaving. Thinking that Xiaozhi Mujin was still worried about his condition, he couldn't help but comfort him. Well, if that doesn't work, you can always ask Miss Joy and the others. If you can't find me, I'll help you out. Well, you didn't misunderstand, Xiaozhi Mujin said before Yu could even begin to laugh and cry. Xiaoyu, you've cured the illness that's been bothering me for so long. I don't know how to thank you enough. I don't have much except these alliance coins, so please accept them. As he spoke, Xiaozhi Mujin pulled a black card from his jacket pocket, one that looked obviously valuable. Without hesitation, Yu pushed it back, whilst Fuchimujin looked stunned. I told you that saving lives is a doctor's duty. Besides, this is a free clinic. What is a free clinic? It's one that doesn't expect anything in return. As he finished speaking, Yu's gaze lingered on the precious-looking black card without a lingering thought. Instead, he leaned over and shouted behind Fuchimujin, "Who's next? Please come forward." After the diagnosis and treatment just now, Yu's miraculous skills had already stunned everyone, and conquered all the onlookers. And it was precisely because of Yu's shout that it was extraordinary. The people who had been waiting in line in other departments suddenly exploded, rushing to get in, fearing that if they were a step slower, they would miss this seemingly insignificant consultation in their lives. And yet, it was true. For some, this should be a rare opportunity, an opportunity that is almost unimaginable and completely unforeseen. Seeing the scene that seemed a little chaotic because of his words, Yu couldn't help but feel happy. Because of this performance, his medical skills had conquered most of the people present. But then, his head ached. Fearing his voice wouldn't travel, he channeled a little of his inner energy into his throat and shouted, "Please be quiet. This is a hospital. Don't disturb others or Pokemon." Instantly, his voice, shrouded in inner energy, drowned out the already noisy atmosphere. Upon hearing the message, the crowd involuntarily fell silent, no longer jostling or talking. They simply stared at Yu, awaiting his next words. "Don't worry, everyone. Today's a free clinic. I'll definitely help everyone here." Examining and treating them one by one, Yu paused, his gaze scanning the crowd. "So, please line up in an orderly manner and come one by one. We have plenty of time to ensure everyone can be treated." As Yu finished speaking, the entire place became perfectly orderly, with a long line gradually forming around Yu's table. Seeing this, Yu nodded in satisfaction and sat down, oblivious to the crowd. This made Fuchimujin almost feel awkward, but after all, she had experienced many ups and downs, and she quickly regained her composure. With a shake of her head and a laugh, she pocketed the black card that had been pushed back. "Father, how are you feeling now?" Fuchidego, taking advantage of the chaos, quietly approached Fuchimujin. Accepting the clothes from Fuchidego, Fuchimujin's expression could only be described in one word: exuberant. "It feels amazing. I haven't felt this relaxed since that accident." As if words alone couldn't express her excitement, Fuchimujin acted like a mischievous child, taking a few steps and occasionally kicking his legs, jumping up and down, or shaking his fist in a boxing stance. "That's great." Daigo Zafuki had a happy look on his face. His father's illness finally had hope of being cured. He could finally go look for stones with peace of mind. Chapter 212 Chat? What are you thinking about, kid? You're laughing so happily. Suddenly, as if calming down, Fuchimujin glanced at Fuchidego with a displeased look. Haha, really? Seeing the look in his father's eyes, Fuchidego twitched his lips and sighed helplessly. Okay. Isn't it because there's hope that your condition will improve, father? I'm just happy for you. Really? I think you're thinking about going to some area or place to dig stones right now. Fuchimujin smiled and directly exposed the Hone champion's cautiousness. His thoughts were exposed. Fuchidego scratched his head in embarrassment. Huh? You're my son. I raised him. How could I not know what you were thinking? Fuchimujin smiled smugly and swayed in front of Fuchidego. Yes, whatever you say. To avoid embarrassment, Daigo's Fuki had to quickly change the subject. By the way, father, how are you going to repay that little brother? He doesn't seem interested in your alliance coins at all. The smug laughter stopped abruptly. Fuki Hibiscus was clearly taken aback by the question, but to avoid embarrassment in front of his son, he first patted Daigo's Fuki's head in annoyance, then acted inscrutable. HMPH, you don't understand now, do you? I have a plan. You'll see. With a pout, Daigo's Fuki pulled a pair of sunglasses from his pocket, put them on his nose, and followed Hibiscus's Fuki towards the VIP lounge of the Pokémon Center. Putting aside his Fuki father and son for now, here, in the area cleared for free clinics, the free clinic was still in full swing. Compared to a moment ago, the place seemed even busier. Besides the crowd that had originally come for the free clinic, there were also many unfamiliar faces. It turned out that upon discovering Yu's exceptional medical skills, the original crowd had immediately become like sharp-toothed sharks smelling blood. Aside from a few who were waiting in line, those left behind, unhurried, flocked to the communication area to call their friends and family. Furthermore, some trainers who had originally only brought injured Pokémon to the Pokémon Center for treatment, after hearing the chatter around them, also joined the queue seeking medical treatment. Their target was none other than Yiyu, whose reputation was beginning to rise. Of course, not all of them were seeking him, a significant number were also seeking his department, but Yiyu only accounted for about a third of the total. Wiping the bead of sweat from his forehead, Yiyu finally had time to look up at the line before him, which had not only not shrunk at all but had actually grown in length. After roughly estimating the number of people, Yiyu didn't feel tired at all. Instead, he felt incredibly energetic, his whole body suddenly filled with boundless energy. A large number of people didn't matter, the only concern was not having enough. What did a large number of people mean? It meant that more and more people would become aware of traditional Chinese medicine. And a large number of people would also promote it. And wasn't that exactly why he had agreed to join the free clinic in the first place? Yiyu thought to himself that with patients with less serious illnesses, he could even manage 2 tasks simultaneously. He took the pulses of 2 patients simultaneously with his left and right hands. Because they were so busy, even Serena and the other 2, who had been sneaking in as spectators, were drafted in to do the hard labor. Whenever Yiyu finished taking a patient's pulse, he would recite the prescription, and Serena and the others would assist him, writing it down word for word and helping to pass it to the patient. Wow! I've seen it so many times, but every time I see it, I'm struck by how amazing Chinese medicine is. Serena quickly wrote down the names of the medicines Yiyu mentioned while chatting with Air and Xiaoxu, her eyes never leaving Yiyu. Yes, yes. Chinese traditional medicine is truly amazing, especially their silver needle acupuncture. Whether used on humans or Pokémon, it's incredibly effective. Xiaoxu nodded in agreement. So Chinese medicine is truly amazing. It can actually heal Pokémon and humans with just a few needles. Upon hearing Xiaoxu's words, Air's 2 beautiful eyebrows raised, a look of intense interest on their face. That's right, Xiaoxu flashed a rare look of pride, as if Air was actually praising her. Now that you mention it, I'm even a little tempted to study medicine with you, Air said, half jokingly and half seriously, but the hint of anticipation in her eyes betrayed her. As her words fell, Xiaoxu and Serena were both stunned, Xiaoxu's expression becoming odd. Air, are you sure? Seeing Xiaoxu's strange, stunned expression, Air would have stopped what she was doing if Yiyu hadn't reminded her. But even then, she was still filled with doubt. Is there something wrong with this? Perhaps because he was with Air, Yiyu had never talked much about medicine or martial arts. Instead, he was more familiar with a childhood friend and a disciple. Xiaoxu kept memorizing prescriptions as she explained. To possess Yiyu's exceptional medical skills, besides being a martial arts master like him, one also needs immense talent and tireless research. Even if I were to study medicine with Yiyu, ostensibly to learn from him, that would only be basic knowledge of acupuncture points. And, let me tell you, as Xiaoxu continued to chatter, she recounted to the 2 girls the stories Yiyu had shared about his medical studies. Air was stunned by what she had said. It was undeniable that Xiaoxu had a gift for public speaking. Her account of Yiyu's medical journey was captivatingly vivid, leaving the audience spellbound. Yiyu, completely unaware of Xiaoxu's sharing of his struggles, continued to examine and treat each citizen. Time flew by silently, and it quickly became afternoon. The number of patients he saw during that time, much like the morning, had increased, not decreased. Among them were trainers who brought their Pokémon for treatment. It turned out that Chapter 213 Pokémon Healing Division. It turned out that Xiaoxu had been discussing Yiyu's medical studies with Serena and Air when someone accidentally overheard it. After learning that Yiyu was not only skilled in medical treatment but also expert in healing Pokémon, the news spread without a trace. This was a resounding success. Word quickly spread from one person to another, and in less than 2 or 3 hours, it was practically everyone in the Pokémon Center. As a result, Yiyu's free clinic not only attracted humans but also a new species, Pokémon. And these Pokémon weren't just one, but a wide variety. Among them were Raiden, with skin as hard as steel, Slime, with a body as soft as plasticine, grass-type Pokémon with unusual body structures, and even some ethereal ghost-type Pokémon like Ghastly and Haunter. When treating a ghost-type Pokémon, Jengar, Yiyu once again wowed the crowd with his impressive treatment. Jengar, a ghost-type Pokémon immune to physical attacks, was unable to evade the silver needles, which also possessed physical properties. The needles, like trackers, pierced Jengar's body. The moment the needles pierced Jengar's body, not only did the ghost-type Pokémon lose its unique properties, but it was also rendered completely immobile. Yu yanked it down from the sky. Under Jengar's horrified gaze, Yu's fingers moved like lightning, hammering at its so-called acupuncture points. Feeling the astonished and admiring glances from those around him, Yu, while treating Jengar, still channeled his senses due to years of habit. Well, so Yu was multitasking again. A subtle quirk of his lips, he listened to the praise, feeling both delighted and filled with pride. He was proud of the long-standing tradition of Chinese traditional medicine, and proud of being a Chinese with a rich cultural heritage. If he weren't worried about being gossiped about by the people around him or by some of the other neighborhood women, he would have burst out laughing. I'm Chinese. This was Yu's only thought in this foreign land. But it's worth noting that even before the free clinic began, Yu had asked Serena, a skilled sewist and expert in sewing and crafting, to embroider a small Chinese flag onto his white robe. This would become his uniform for future international competitions. Yu manipulated the needles as if playing with his own hands, each one precisely placed on the acupuncture point. The trembling needles resembled playful dancers. Wow, amazing, what kind of supernatural power is this? Nonsense, he clearly has superpowers. From those waiting for treatment or watching the spectacle, exclamations of amazement and discussion mingled, rising in volume. The roof of the Pokémon world seemed to be about to be blown off. Quiet, quiet. Please, everyone, be quiet. This is the Pokémon Center, not some market. If anyone's making a fuss, don't blame me for asking them to leave. Miss Joy's sweet, clear voice echoed once again from the doorway. Her eyebrows were furrowed, her hands on her hips, and her expression was tinged with a hint of ferocity. The rage woven into her words was palpable to any sensible person. As if frightened, the surface verbs fell silent, the only sound remaining as Yu stabbed the silver needle into Jengar's flesh. Exhaling deeply, Yu deftly took the handkerchief Serena offered him and wiped the dense beads of sweat from his forehead. Isn't this going to work? There's still an afternoon of free clinic time left, and we don't know how many people will be there. Even though the internal energy used is small, it adds up. Don't let yourself be drained before you finish treating others. Becoming the world's first Chinese medicine practitioner to die from exhaustion. Hell, Yu thought to himself, wanting to cry but unable to. He even managed to gloat over it, letting out a strange, inexplicable laugh. Wow! What was that move you just made? It was amazing. Those silver needles actually managed to pierce Jengar one by one. If I'm not mistaken, I think you must have used that miraculous Chinese internal energy again. The three girls chatting nearby resumed their conversation. As they had expected, Yu had used the magic of internal energy to heal Jengar. The internal energy cultivated by Chinese warriors is a mysterious energy that can attach to any object, imbuing those objects with properties that originally lacked them. This is how the physical silver needles, guided by internal energy, were able to pierce Jengar. This may also be the magic of Chinese traditional medicine. The internal force generated in the body through martial arts practice, coupled with the unique characteristics of Chinese medicine, complements each other. After treating several citizens, Yu once again encountered a special patient, Hornfang. In fact, in the Pokémon world, in addition to the various different occupational divisions, there are also many branches in some occupations. For example, Miss Joy, a Pokémon nurse and doctor, although they are all-around Pokémon healers, they have their specialties. Among the Pokémon with a wide variety of attributes, there are some Miss Joys who are good at treating ghost-type Pokémon, some are good at treating plant-type grass-type Pokémon, and some are good at treating rock-type Pokémon. These are relatively difficult and complex Pokémon to treat. In Pokémon medicine, there's a hierarchy of treatment complexity, and the list above ranks treatments from most difficult to least difficult, followed by steel types, dark types, normal types, and so on. For example, ghost-type Pokémon are immune to physical attacks, making them ineffective with standard medical equipment. They require specialized equipment with the abilities of psychic-type Pokémon. Grass-type Pokémon are even more unique than their animal-type counterparts, and any doctor specializing in grass-type Pokémon treatments is at least a qualified botanist. Rock-type Pokémon, with their stone-like bodies, are also difficult to treat with certain instruments. Chapter 214, Remarks on the release. Actually, I'm not very good at writing thank you notes. I initially considered not doing so, but since it's my first time, I decided to write one. My first novel is finally online, and I'm overwhelmed with emotion. Since I wrote my first word last year, I've already written over 200 chapters and over 400,000 words. It's been a long journey. Initially, I couldn't update regularly due to my poor writing skills. Then I updated every 3 or 2 days, and then a few months ago, every day. Now, I've finally built up a stable of content. I believe I'll be able to successfully evolve into a regular updater in the near future. And now, a simple browser search reveals all sorts of pirated copies. I never imagined that my work would one day appear on the pirated websites I once knew well. It's a truly indescribable feeling, a mixture of excitement and frustration. I know I'm slow to update, but there's no other way. To ensure everyone can enjoy the content of this book, I'm constantly learning and improving. Sometimes, after you've read a chapter, I'll have to spend an hour or two pondering and writing, just to better immerse you in the world of the book. Because Kanto is also a student with a heavy academic workload, he wakes up at 6:30 every day for classes and has evening study sessions, so it's almost 11 o'clock by the time he's done with his showers. Besides studying, every day is just writing. While others are playing around, Kanto is writing, and even when others are playing games, he keeps writing. But honestly, in all my 17 years, my life has never felt so fulfilled. And to write well and make it more enjoyable for everyone, Kanto's mind is constantly on the move. Whether walking or using the bathroom, almost any moment of free time begins to compose the plot for the book. He even has a habit of carrying a pen and paper with him, just to jot down a moment of inspiration and present it to everyone. Sometimes, I get so engrossed in the plot, mumbling to myself, that some of my friends accuse me of writing novels like I've gone off the deep end. Actually, it was just for fun at first. Kanto has been a Pokemon fanatic since childhood, and has always envied and fantasized about life in the Pokemon world. When I read Pokemon, I either didn't find it to my liking, or the updates were suddenly discontinued. So, for my own stomach, I decided to pick up my pen and start writing about Pokemon, sharing my own world of Pokemon with everyone. Of course, I know this book still has many flaws, but rest assured, I'll address them all. Although my QQ group currently only has 3 members, many book lovers regularly vote for me and leave comments in the comments section. This makes me feel like I'm no longer alone. Every time I read the comments in the comments section, my previously unmotivated spirit is instantly rekindled. With a special encouragement, I embark on a new wave of writing. I carefully read every comment, whether good or bad, from chapter to chapter, and even in the reviews section. Sometimes, every time I open the author's backstage and see an extra comment, I get excited for a long time. I'm actually a very sentimental person. When people form a bond, it's not easy to give up. Sometimes I fantasize that after I've written several books, whether I've become a great writer or remain relatively unknown, I'll still see at least 1 or 2 familiar faces under my book reviews. I don't care how much you spent on my books. The fact that we've met is a profound fate, a bond worth cherishing. Your presence is my greatest motivation for writing. I hope that by then, and in the future, whether the books change or not, I'll still see your presence. Finally, I ask everyone to support the authentic version. Every subscription is invaluable to this book. However, if you're a student and truly struggling financially, then you can just go do whatever you want. After all, relationships are more precious. Afterward, if it's not too much trouble, you can also leave a recommendation or a comment. As for the rules for adding more chapters, by the way, my requirements are not high. If the average subscription reaches 3 digits, I'll add 1 chapter. If the monthly votes exceed 2 digits, I'll add 1 chapter. If you tip, I'll add 1 chapter for every 2,000 you accumulate. As for the rest, Kanto didn't dare to think about it. Chapter 215 Treatment of Bell Buds. Looking at the rather dazed Bill Sparrow before him, twisting and turning like a ballet dancer, Yu narrowed his eyes, suppressing the slight unease within him. He put on a very kind expression, slowly extending his hands, so as not to startle the creature and encourage its cooperation. Unlike the silver needles he had used to treat Jengar, this time, Yu sheathed the needles and set them aside. He channeled his internal energy, slowly gathering it into his palms. Bill Sparrow, seeing the hands gradually reaching towards him, Bill Sparrow instinctively tried to dodge backwards. However, His master blocked his way, preventing him from retreating. "Don't be afraid, Bill Sparrow. He's a very skilled doctor. Let him examine your condition. You'll be well soon, and then we can fight side by side again." Bill Sparrow's trainer exchanged encouraging glances with a timid Bill Sparrow. Yu observed the harmonious and friendly scene between the human and the Pokémon before him. His outstretched hand froze in midair, but he didn't let it fall or withdraw, feeling awkward. However, the smile on his lips was no longer as stiff and businesslike as before. Seeing that Bellsprout seemed to waver, its trainer quickly seized the opportunity and said, "Bellsprout, you're destined to become the most powerful grass-type Pokémon. How can you be defeated by a mere healing?" Meeting its master's resolute gaze, Bellsprout seemed to draw some unknown strength. It didn't flinch anymore, but instead proactively raised 2 leaves, slowly but firmly reaching towards Yu. "Wow! Bellsprout, you're truly amazing and brave." Yu joined in the praise, his movements no less rapid. Before Bellsprout could react, Yu had already grabbed both leaves. His eyes focused, carefully observing the veins on the leaves, while channeling the internal energy in his palms into those veins. Suddenly, streams of warmth, originating from the 2 leaves of the bell bud, began to flow throughout its body. Internal energy was truly miraculous. Under its constant nourishment, the bell bud's previously yellowed leaves began to reappear at a visible speed. Bell bud, the bell bud couldn't help but let out a cry of joy and delight. Then, Yu began massaging the meridians. The movements were seamless, seemingly simple, yet incredibly intense. Not bad. Bellbud, you're really doing great." He circulated the internal energy throughout his body, then slowly absorbed it into the Qi in his Danshin. Only then did Yu free his hands and affectionately stroked Bellbud's head. Seeing this gesture, the Bellbud's trainer gaped in astonishment, as if he could swallow his fist. This was my shy introverted Bellbud, actually allowing someone to touch its head like this without resistance. Bellsprout's condition isn't serious, just severely dehydrated. How are you supposed to be a trainer? Don't you even know how to hydrate a Pokémon? Especially a grass-type Pokémon like Bellsprout. Yu began by introducing Bellsprout, then, under the stunned gaze of Bellsprout's trainer, launched into tirade. The first few moments were fine, and Bellsprout's trainer breathed a sigh of relief. But then, Yu's continuous questioning left him so embarrassed that he practically buried his head in shame. I'm sorry. I'll be more careful next time." Under the curious and puzzled gazes of those around him, Bellsprout's trainer kept bowing and apologizing. "What? There's another time," Yu glared, and subconsciously slammed the table. This startled Bellsprout's trainer, who looked up at Yu in astonishment, his lips trembling. Sorry. I won't do it again." In the blink of an eye, the Bellsprout trainer quickly picked up the still thrashing Bellsprout and dashed off at the speed of a 100-meter sprint. In the blink of an eye, he vanished from view, leaving only these words lingering in the free clinic area. "Oh, what's going on? Am I that scary?" This time, it was Yu who froze. He turned to look at Serena and the other 2, stunned, and asked, his hand unconsciously rubbing his cheek. "I just wanted to warn him not to be so careless." Puff. Seeing Yu's bewildered and somewhat naive expression before them, the 3 girls couldn't help but burst into laughter. "Yu, you were truly terrifying just now," Air said, her lips curling into a sly smile. "What was that?" Yu paused as he pulled out the silver needle, asking curiously. Serena, Air, and Xiaoxu all exchanged sly glances, their eyes gleaming with sly smiles. Then, in unison, they said, "Of course it's terrifying. You're so stupid, you couldn't even imagine that." The setting sun cast its afterglow across the city's tall buildings, and the darkness of night gradually enveloped the land, its gleaming neon lights dominating the city once again. The afternoon passed, Yu constantly providing free medical treatment to patients and Pokémon. After seeing off the last patient, he began to tidy up his desk. Bang bang as Yu twisted his body to stand, a popping sound like frying beans echoed from his waist. Serena yawned, her body drained of strength, and she slumped limply against the table, looking exhausted. Air stood up as well, stretched comfortably, and looked around. We are the only ones left. Why are all the other authoritative experts gone? Well, there's nothing we can do. It's because Yu has an attractiveness that most of the people who originally went to see other doctors come to see Yu. Fortunately, this is just a free clinic. If it were a hospital job, they would all be unemployed. Xiaoxu made a rare joke, and it was obvious that she was in a very good mood. Yet, upon hearing the topic about Yu, Serena immediately pricked up her ears and agreed. Subconsciously looking up at the clock in the lobby of the Pokémon Center, Serena seemed to have the strength to jump up again, pointing at the clock and exclaiming, "Ah! It's already 7:30. Chapter 216 The Bustling Cafeteria. Woohoo, so good, wow. This sandwich is delicious, and the soup. That silky texture immediately fills my taste buds, and this rich aroma is so delicious. Pika, Kopiliulizha Firefox. The Pokémon Center cafeteria was now filled with the aroma of delicious food. Several tables, arranged together, were filled with a variety of delicious food, attracting the attention of the trainers staying and eating at the Pokémon Center. They gulped and their gazes drifted over. Their gazes varied, some gazing at the food, others admiringly watching the people enjoying it. It's delicious, isn't it? If so, then eat more. Meanwhile, at a corner of the long table, Xiaozhi Hibiscus sat beside Yu, beaming as he devoured the food with such gusto. Yu, now a distant memory of his morning's ethereal demeanor, was devouring his meal with a mouthful of grease. Upon hearing Xiaozhi Mujin's words, he only mumbled, "Delicious, Mr. Xiaozhi, these dishes are truly excellent, The three women sitting across from him, completely disregarding their appearance, devoured the food with gusto, fearing that if they were slow, their desired meal would disappear. Just as Yu and his companions had packed up and were preparing to head to the cafeteria for a late-night snack, they discovered that Xiaozhi Mujin had already prepared a table of sumptuous food. Without giving them a second thought, he led one of them to the table, one by one. Unable to refuse his generous offer, the scene unfolded. As long as it's delicious, I wasn't worried it wouldn't suit your taste. Everyone, eat as much as you want. There's plenty of delicious food." Xiaozhi Mujin's smile widened. Suddenly noticing the envious looks from the trainers around him, Xiaozhi Hibiscus waved his hand, his face brimming with elation. The ailment that's plagued me for years finally has a cure. I'm so happy today. Xiaozhi Hibiscus, will pay for all the food at the Pokémon Center tonight. Everyone, eat to your heart's content. If it's not enough, I'll have my 5-star chef bring it over first. Wow, rich man, thank you, rich man. Xiaozhi Dago, sitting nearby, slapped his forehead. Seeing his father like this, he wished he could find a crack in the ground to crawl into. Is this really necessary? We're all celebrities, after all, but your son isn't like Mikali. I want to keep a low profile. Yu finally raised his head from the struggle for food and looked at Pikachu, who was also wolfing down his food at the table not far from him. Its puffy cheeks added a touch of adorability to its already adorable appearance. Pikachu, just like its owner had just a moment ago, devoured the food on its plate with complete abandon. Sitting on the ground, a vegetarian fruit in his left hand and a specially prepared Pokémon food in his right. Several female trainers, watching this, were filled with affection. If it weren't for Yu's group, they would have rushed over and divided the food between them. Hey Pikachu, didn't you just eat Serena's puff pastry? How come you still have an appetite? You can't be like this. Eat less. We have special training tonight. Don't let yourself run by then. Yu lectured Pikachu sternly, then took a big bite of the croquette. Do you still have any shame? Croquette in his left hand, drink in his right. He even ate or drank from time to time. What's the meaning of this? Pikachu's cheeks puffed up, and he rolled his eyes at his master. Then, ignoring Yu's somewhat threatening glare, he continued eating, occasionally making chewing sounds as if to deliberately annoy Yu. That brat, Yu glared, but his movements didn't slow down at all, bringing a bite of fruit to his lips. He's truly a trainer. And judging by the strength of his Pokémon, they're at least surpassing the gym trainer's official Pokémon. Dago's Xiaozhi seemed to have forgotten his father's recent boast. He sat upright in his chair, elegantly sipping a cup of Blue Mountain coffee, his eyes occasionally glancing at Yu or Pikachu. By the way, Yu, can I discuss something with you? Serena paused, picked up a napkin, and elegantly wiped her mouth. Her beautiful eyes stared at Yu, and Yu saw anticipation in them. Yu swallowed the food with difficulty, as if it were stuck in his throat. He patted his chest vigorously, then picked up a bottle of juice and gulped it down. Feeling better, Yu smiled and asked, "What's the matter? You actually need to discuss this with me." There's a Pokemon exhibition competition in Yaletown in a few days. You know, I want to become a Pokemon performer like Ayer, so I want to participate in the competition." As if afraid you would disagree, after Serena explained her purpose, Ayer quickly added, "But don't worry, it won't take up too much of your time. We've already checked. Yaletown is one of the towns you pass through on the way to Aromatherapy City. It'll only take us half a day, so we can continue on our way the rest of the way." Xiaoxu nodded in agreement with Serena and the others. Even so, she still cast her gaze on Yiyu. Clearly, they knew Yiyu's discussion was very tight, so the decision rested with him. "Hey, are there any Pokemon shows happening around here? Then let's all go. Ayer's idea is feasible, and I'll still make it, even if it means I'm late." Yiyu immediately made the decision, reassuring Serena and Ayer. He didn't want to delay Serena and Ayer's rare opportunity to compete and train because of his own faults. It's worth noting that because Pokemon shows originated in the Kalos region, the locations and events of Pokemon shows are very limited in other regions. But despite being the region's origin, Pokemon shows are held everywhere, yet not everywhere. Pokemon shows are held randomly, just like the more popular Pokemon coordination competitions in other regions. For traveling trainers, gathering all the qualifications is a matter of luck. Of course, that excludes the most powerful. Therefore, Yiyu agreed without hesitation. Ayer aside, he didn't want to delay Serena's growth. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 217 Invitation to Battle. Wow, wow. Look, that young man in a white robe eating at that table. He's the miracle doctor at today's free clinic. Where? Yeah, it really is. That young miracle doctor is truly amazing. He even treated Squirtle for me this afternoon. What looked like a severe fever was instantly cured in just 1 or 2 treatments with his magical Chinese medicine needles. Wow. What a handsome guy. There's another handsome guy sitting next to that young miracle doctor. Birds of a feather flock together. That handsome guy drinks his coffee so gracefully and maturely. I love it, but why does this handsome guy look so familiar? I feel like I've seen him somewhere before. Now that you mention it, it seems so. Let me think. Perhaps because of Zifuchi Mugen's overly ostentatious behavior earlier, the group of people eating in the cafeteria kept their eyes fixed on Yiyu and his group. First, Yiyu's performance today sparked much discussion. But as the conversation continued, everyone's eyes finally turned to Dago's Fuki. It was these constant, curious glances that startled the Hone champion, Dago's Fuki, so much so that he quickly lowered his head, picked up his spoon, and began to eat the food on the table, attempting to conceal his presence. Even as Dago's Fuki fretted, and thought his disguise was impeccable, he was finally exposed. One of the fan trainers, noticing something, immediately shouted towards the table, "Dago's Fuki!" With that cry, the once bustling cafeteria fell completely silent. Amidst the stunned gazes, the atmosphere grew eerie, causing some to become uncertain. But then, a sudden voice suddenly rang out, shattering the atmosphere. "Hey! Can someone tell me who this Dago Tsushima is?" The person next to him choked, but instinctively replied, "Hone champion Dago Tsushima." "Ah! Champion!" the questioner exclaimed, his voice suddenly abrupt, standing out in the suddenly quiet cafeteria. Even a fool could understand what the title of champion signified. It represented the region's apparent highest power. And even though they were from different regions, there were still many reports about them, and numerous Pokemon battles centered around their champion-level battles. Yes, I finally remember. He's the Hone champion Dago Tsushima, my idol." The person who had been pondering before suddenly exclaimed in delight at the reminder. Yiyu's hearing was truly excellent, and the cafeteria was still quite quiet. A true battle fanatic, whether battling Pokemon or humans, he immediately glared at Dago's Fuki like a sharp-toothed shark sniffing blood. His fighting spirit seemed to solidify, and he had even put down his food. "Last time, I missed out on the Sinnoh Championship because of my retreat, but I didn't expect to receive another Hone Championship this time. It seems the heavens know I'm tired of being alone, and they're truly kind to me," Yiyu thought to himself, his eyes already observing Dago's Fuki's every move. This was his usual style, Whether battling humans or Pokemon, he would always know his enemy first, observing every detail to gauge their tactics. Facing Yuyu's almost aggressive gaze, Daigo's Fuki seemed oblivious, taking sips from his coffee from time to time, even picking up some pastries to eat with his coffee, his movements remaining incredibly graceful. For a moment, the cheerful atmosphere at the table began to subtly turn subdued. As if a powder keg had been added to the mix, ready to explode at the slightest provocation. Haha, what are you all doing? Don't make a good meal so dull. Yuyu, see if there's anything else you'd like to eat? Tell me and I'll have the kitchen make it right away. Xiaozhi and Xiaomao hurried out to smooth things over, trying to shift everyone's attention back to the food. However, it seemed to be no use, and the atmosphere remained subdued for a moment. But just as Xiaozhi and Xiaomao grinned, about to sit back down and eat, Yuyu suddenly said, "That croquette is delicious. Please give me another plate." Darkness as the words fell, everyone felt a mercrow fly overhead, leaving 6 large black dots in its wake. "No problem. Chef, another croquette," Xiaozhi and Xiaomao hurriedly called to the chef. Seeing that Yuyu's words had brightened the mood somewhat, and seeing that Yuyu's eyes barely left Xiaozhi Daigo, he seemed to understand something. Patting his head sheepishly, Xiaozhi and Xiaomao then pointed at Xiaozhi Daigo, who was still sipping his coffee, and introduced him. "By the way, look at my memory. I haven't introduced you yet. This is my son, Xiaozhi Daigo," and just as Xiaozhi and Xiaomao finished speaking, bang bang, Yuyu excitedly slammed the table and stood up, his energy blazing, his gaze fixed on Xiaozhi Daigo. "I was a little unsure just now, but now I'm certain. You are indeed the Hone champion, Xiaozhi Daigo. Oh. So you want to talk to me about something?" Xiaozhi Daigo finally put his coffee down, crossed his legs, and spoke calmly. "Yuyu didn't intend to beat around the bush and went straight to the point. In a Pokemon battle with me, only with a powerful trainer like you can I have room for improvement." PFFT interesting, the corners of his mouth curled up slightly, and a look of interest appeared on Daigo's Fuki's face. "You're really a strange person. If it were some ordinary trainer, I would be terribly nervous right now. I never thought you would actually take the initiative to challenge me. Here then I'm not comparable to those ordinary trainers," Yuyu countered without showing any weakness. "Haha Yuyu, you've successfully piqued my interest, so let's have a good fight. Let me see how strong this extraordinary trainer is." Chapter 218 Boscador vs Gyarados. Feeling the sudden tension between the two sides, Serena and the other 2 girls grew nervous, looking at Yuyu with concern. After all, the opponent was a regional champion, and they had seen Serena and Kaluna fight before. Although the 2 sides had never competed, as champions, no matter how bad they were, they shouldn't be much different. Unlike the 3 girls' nervousness, Xiaozhi Hibiscus didn't try to persuade them this time. He just watched with a smile, occasionally picking up a few bites of food. But if you looked closely, you could see that his eyes were full of admiration when he looked at Yuyu. Suddenly, he caught a glimpse of the 3 girls' anxious expressions, and he paused in his eating. He knew what was going on, but he still smiled and reminded them, "You 2 can have a Pokemon battle, but keep it to a minimum and don't ruin the atmosphere. Don't worry, father. I'll just treat it as an after-dinner exercise. I'm sure Boscadora and the others will be delighted." Xiaozhi Daigo chuckled, taking out a handkerchief and dabbing his mouth elegantly. "Me too, I'll treat it as an after-dinner exercise. Isn't that right, Pikachu?" Yuyu turned his gaze towards Pikachu. Pikachu had already put down his food, its once bulging belly having returned to its original size. Just like its owner, its face was filled with fighting spirit, ready for battle at any moment. Xiaozhi and Xiaomao was surprised. He wondered how Pikachu's belly could grow so big. It had vanished so quickly. Wasn't he worried about indigestion during the fight? "Very good, Pikachu. That's the aura," Yuyu praised Pikachu. Then he turned to Xiaozhi Daigo. "So, when do we start? I can't wait, give it another 10 minutes. It needs to digest. Otherwise, I won't be able to unleash my true strength," Xiaozhi Daigo said calmly, his words unmistakable. Perhaps this was the aura of a champion. The 10 minutes passed quickly. During that time, Yuyu didn't continue eating. Instead, he and Xiaozhi Daigo discussed the rules of the battle. After some deliberation, Yuyu and Xiaozhi Daigo both chose the all-out duel. An all-out duel, also known as a 6-on-6 Pokemon battle, is the largest Pokemon battle format. When all 6 Pokemon of one team are incapacitated, the other team wins. In just 10 minutes, The battle arena in the Pokémon Center's backyard was practically packed with onlookers. Yu and Dagos Fuki, the commanding officers for both teams, had already taken their positions. It's truly remarkable how versatile each Miss Joy is. In the center of the arena, Miss Joy was already holding the red and green referee flags, waiting for both trainers to prepare so she could immediately take on refereeing duties. Yu, are you ready? Dagos Fuki tugged at his shirt, a faint smile playing on his face. Anytime, Yu shouted, warming up. Let's begin then, no problem. Miss Joy, I'll be counting on you later, okay? Both of you, do your best. I'll definitely do my job as a referee. Miss Joy playfully gestured to both teams with a reassuring gesture. Then I'll go first, Dagos Fuki declared, his voice imperious, instantly establishing the first attack position. Being in the first attack position, while actually being the one who launches the first attack in a match, can also put oneself in a passive position. This is because the trainer who attacks first also sends out the first Pokémon. And the trainer who attacks later can exploit this by sending out Pokémon with superior attributes or those that are more advantageous to them. It doesn't matter, Yu said, seemingly unconcerned. It's time to play, Buscadora. Dagos Fuki tossed the Pokéball. A flash of red light revealed a massive creature covered in white armor. Because I was in such a hurry, I didn't bring most of my main Pokémon with me. I only brought one Metagross. I captured this Buscador when I brought it to the Kalos region just after I found the rare stone. Although I haven't trained it very long, it's quite powerful. Dagos Fuki leisurely explained the situation of his Buscadora. Is that so? Then, Gyarados is decidedly yours. You didn't overthink it. He probably knew that while he might appear powerful, facing a true champion, he'd likely be at a disadvantage. Gyarados roared with a powerful roar as it emerged. In the darkness, the lights in the Pokémon Center's backyard were fully activated, illuminating Gyarados' golden scales with dazzling rays of light. For a moment, the golden light seemed to dispel the darkness in the backyard. Golden Gyarados, the initial golden glow made Dagos Fuki narrow his eyes, carefully examining its source. After his eyes adjusted, he chuckled again. Interesting. It's a powerful Pokémon like Gyarados, and a very rare shiny one at that, but so what? At that moment, Fuki Dagos' eyes changed. No longer as lazy as before, they were filled with a fierce determination to crush anything that stood in his way. Just like when Fuki Dago was digging, and encountered rocks or other solid objects, he didn't retreat or take a detour, but charged forward and pierced through them. Ignoring the exclamations from those around him, Fuki Dago gave the order, Buscadora, use the alloy claws. Boom boom. Suddenly, the ground began to shake slightly as Buscadora ran. Gyarados, use the dragon tail to block it. Yu gave the order without hesitation. Bang! The thick emerald green tail collided with the massive, white glowing arms, and the sonic boom spread in all directions. Gyarados, use water cannon. Buscadora, use iron head. The tail and arms were locked in a stalemate, and Gyarados fired a water cannon from its mouth, attempting to break the impasse. However, before Gyarados could fire his water cannon, Buscadora's metal-clad head shone white and slammed into Gyarados, blocking the water cannon's release while also inflicting damage. Chapter 219 Paralysis. Gyarados, a shriek echoed through the night sky behind the Pokémon Center, accompanied by the muffled thud of a heavy object falling. So strong, Yu was filled with horror as he watched the fallen Gyarados. This Gyarados was arguably the most defensive of all his Pokémon. But he hadn't expected it to show such pain at the simple Iron Head attack. Gyarados, how are you? Are you still ready for a fight? Yu shouted, his tone tinged with anxiety as he watched Gyarados slowly climb to its feet, its head propped up against the ground. Gyarados, Yu's response was an angry roar. Gyarados' eyes, now larger than light bulbs, were now ablaze with excitement, the flames of fighting spirit. It had been ages since it evolved into Gyarados, and the opponent its master had chosen for it today was perfectly suited to its needs. It must have a good fight today, and it must win. As if sensing Gyarados' intentions, Yu's face lit up with an unprecedented belligerence. He licked his dry lips, his voice filled with the same excitement as before. Very well, that's it. Gyarados, don't let them underestimate us. Go. Use jet fire. Oh. The momentum has changed? But the outcome remains the same. Dagos Fuki seemed stunned by Yu's aura, but soon issued another command, Buscadora, use rock seal. A long, scorching stream of fire erupted from Gyarados' mouth, creating a long streak of fire in the air. However, before the fire could reach its target, huge pieces of rock suddenly formed in the air and hurled themselves towards Gyarados. Keep blasting flames, Gyarados. Then use your tail to sweep away those boulders. Bang, bang. Boulders repeatedly collided with the dragon's tail, shattering into dust or scattering into the air. They couldn't hurt Gyarados at all. The line of fire continued uninterrupted. Though interrupted once or twice, it was quickly reconnected by new bursts of Gyarados' fire. That's beautiful, Dagos Fuchi couldn't help but exclaim in admiration, then commanded again, Buscadora, use mud throw to extinguish the flames. His massive hand thrust into the ground, swirling clumps of mud, which gradually flew towards the blasting flames. Instantly, under the influence of the attribute, the once powerful blast of flames was extinguished by the mud flow. You actually blocked it. How about this? Gyarados uses Destruction Beam. Agrodora, let's use Destruction Beam too. Bang boom, both Pokemon gathered the power of Destruction Beam. Then, in a split second, two massive beams of Destruction Beam were launched simultaneously. Above the center of the battlefield, the collision of the two energy beams sent turbulent waves of air billowing, and smoke and dust billowed, obscuring the sight of everyone who was filled with anticipation and nervousness. Even the moon in the sky seemed to be anticipating the outcome. A gentle evening breeze blew from nowhere, dispersing the air and dust in the field, revealing the true nature within. As the obstacles gradually diminished, faint arcs of electricity flickered across the two behemoths. This was the after effect of Destruction Beam, temporarily paralyzing the Pokemon that used it. Unlike the surrounding people, who were just watching the spectacle, this one was filled with nervous excitement. Yu and Dagos Fuki's hearts involuntarily rose in their chests, silently counting the duration of the paralysis and preparing for the next moment of battle. Since both Pokemon were paralyzed simultaneously, whichever Pokemon was able to break free first would have a clear advantage, allowing them to use their opponent's skills first, even if it was only for a single move. Bosk, finally, as Dagos Fuki had predicted, Buscadora was the first to break free. Excellent work, Buscadora. Use Rock Seal, Buscadora. Buscadora roared to the sky, and giant boulders materialized from thin air, hurling themselves at Gyarados, whose body still faintly pulsated with electricity. Gyarados, hold on, you'll have a good fight later. Yu knew that Gyarados had no chance of evading Buscadora's Rock Seal, so he could only shout encouragement from behind, hoping to unleash its potential. After all, doesn't every shiny Pokemon have a hidden attribute? And from capturing Golden Magikarp to its later evolution into Yellow Gyarados, Yu had yet to discover that special attribute. Meanwhile, he secretly made a resolution. In the future, if there were another skill like Destruction Ray, with its immense destructive power but also significant side effects, he would have that Pokemon continuously train it until the side effects were minimized. Furthermore, skills that required concentrated strength or energy also needed to be shortened in duration. They didn't need to be seamless, but they had to be faster than other Pokemon. Unaware that Yu had already thought so much in such a short time, Dagos Fuki once again put on a relaxed smile, his gaze constantly following the boulders formed by the closure of his eye rock. Gyarados, seemingly paralyzed, tried to respond to his master, but couldn't even speak. Bang! Gigantic rocks grew larger and larger before Gyarados' eyes. In the blink of an eye, they were already making close contact with the dragon, echoing with a muffled thud of flesh hitting flesh. Even with its sturdy scales protecting it, Gyarados couldn't help but see stars, and its body slammed heavily to the ground, sending dust flying everywhere. HMPH. For a trainer who's only just debuted, your Gyarados' performance is quite impressive. But it has to be this far, the battle must still end. Yu, a novice trainer in Dagos Fuki's eyes, offered unstinting praise. Yu remained silent, knowing he had absolutely no strength left. Against the Hone champion, even though he had been in near-perfect match since his debut, he could only clench his fists, veins already bulging. Chapter 220 Fighting. Just as Yu fell silent at Dagos Fuki's words, and the onlookers were also pessimistic, believing Gyarados would be rendered incapacitated, the dark figure in the field, obscured by the dust, suddenly seemed to shift slightly. This was a testament to Miss Joy's extensive knowledge of what makes a good referee. Had anyone else been the referee, they would have declared Gyarados incapacitated. The dust cleared, and Gyarados rose to his feet again, his body covered in wounds. Even his tough golden scales bore deep scratches from the impact. Gyarados, a furious roar echoed through the night once again, a wave so faint it could be heard. The dark clouds seemed to shatter, revealing tiny stars within. Why has this momentum changed? Fuki was stunned by the sudden change. Why does this aura feel different? And what's with those two flickering flames in Gyarados' eyes? Yu was equally shocked, but as Gyarados' trainer, he had a more direct and intuitive sense of it. From the fleeting glance he'd shared with Gyarados, Yu had vaguely grasped the underlying emotion. Is this the rage generated by being constantly outmatched and even constantly injured? Yu's mind raced, thoughts racing through his mind, each one dismissed. Gyarados, no. This doesn't sound like the sound of anger. It's more like the excited sound I make when I battle a powerful opponent. As if grasping something, Yu seemed to be brimming with excitement. Finally, his gaze fixed on the battlefield where Boscadora and Gyarados stood. His previous silence was broken, and he suddenly burst into laughter. What's wrong with Yu? I'm probably going crazy because of the stimulation. Serena, who was sitting behind Yu and treated like a coach, couldn't help but exclaim with her hands covering her mouth. That doesn't seem like it. Could it be that he's been beaten and hit? But it doesn't feel like it either. This is just the first battle. And these feelings don't seem like Yu's style. Aya pursed her lips, frowned, and said uncertainly. I don't think this is a crazy laugh, but more like a laugh of arrogance and excitement. The attentive Xiaoxu quickly sensed the emotion contained in the laughter. As if by agreement, the moment Xiaoxu finished speaking, Yu's laughter abruptly stopped. This was accompanied by a rousing roar. The blood will not run dry, the battle will not stop. Gyarados, let's fight this one to the bitter end. Gyarados, as if responding to its master, or perhaps even encouraging itself, Gyarados launched a furious dragon with bared fangs and claws. Is this already the first battle? It's getting more and more interesting. I can even feel my blood boiling, Fuki muttered, his brows furrowed. Since they're still unwilling to give up, we'll have no choice but to fight to the end. Boscadora, use your alloy claws. The furious dragon, composed of blue energy, danced its body towards Boscadora, as if it wanted to tear the behemoth to pieces. Boscadora faced with the fierce wrath of the dragon, Boscadora showed no fear. Instead, it roared at the dragon, as if that roar would cause the dragon's wrath to retreat. Both arms, clad in white armor, suddenly glowed white. With their massive body swung, they retreated instead of advancing, determined to challenge the Dragon of Fury. Under the tense gaze of the crowd, their broad claws finally made contact with the Dragon of Fury. Bosco Wutu howls echoed, and the next moment, a terrifying scene unfolded. Boscador thrust his massive arms forward, as if attempting to block Dragon of Fury with his own strength. This wasn't going to be that simple. For some reason, the Gyarados, standing up once again, gave Fuki the impression that his strength, speed, and defense had doubled. Sure enough, the next moment, as Yu stared in a daze, Dragon of Fury pushed Boscadora forward, leaving 2 deep marks on the battlefield. But that wasn't the most important thing. Even as Dragon of Fury pushed him back, Boscadora still managed to clasp his arms together to block. The subsequent series of maneuvers amazed both Yu and the crowd. Having adapted to the power of Dragon's Fury, Boscadora harnessed the strength of its alloy claws, raising its right arm and resting one hand on the dragon's head while the other rested on its torso. Boscadora, with a roar, Dragon's Fury was literally torn in two. Indeed, it was torn apart by sheer force. The shattered power transformed into tiny pinpricks of light, vanishing into the darkness. Impressive, but my Gyarados isn't bad either. Yu showed no sign of the panic he felt after Dragon's Fury was ripped apart. Instead, he mimicked Fuki's movements. Through this Dragon's Fury, Yu also sensed the changes in Gyarados. Its power was vastly increased compared to the previous attack. This realization, after Yu had truly grasped, caused him to mutter to himself with excitement, almost ready to cheer. Boscador had ripped Dragon's Fury to pieces. On the surface, it looked like Boscador had the upper hand. But in reality, that wasn't the case. Didn't you see Boscador still gasping for breath, his arms covered in white armor still trembling faintly? I thought I'd greatly overestimated Gyarados' sudden change in strength, but I didn't expect it to be so. Fuki raised his eyebrows. There are still many things you can't imagine. Don't always act like you have it all planned out, or you'll get slapped in the face. Gyarados uses Dragon Tail. Hey. You're right. Buscadora, stop playing around. Fight with all your might. Use Dragon Tail. Bang bang boom boom. Suddenly, the muffled sound of flesh colliding on flesh echoed throughout the battlefield, and with each thud, the ground even trembled. Two behemoths on the battlefield, a primal struggle. At first, Gyarados had the upper hand, but later, Buscadora gradually took the lead, wielding its claws and tail. The fight dragged on for a moment, and Gyarados was once again in a passive position. Gyarados, if you truly possess the flash ability, then that's called fighting. Now let's show them what we can do in adversity. Go ahead, use Water Cannon. Watching Gyarados' frantic battle with Buscadora, Yu Yu's heart was filled with anxiety. Regardless of the stunned expressions of those around him, he shouted. Chapter 221 Buscadora vs. Buscadora. Yu Yu's sudden final command seemed quite abrupt. But Gyarados was indeed Yu Yu's battle-hardened general, a master with tacit cooperation. The moment the order was given, Gyarados had already begun to withdraw, while simultaneously gathering a water cannon from its mouth. Just as Buscadora reacted and was about to intercept Gyarados, it unleashed its water cannon without hesitation. Buscadora, use Iron Head technique to charge forward. Buscadora's white helmet glowed, and he charged head-on at the incoming water cannon. The thick stream of water struck Iron Head technique, splitting the water in two directions. In the end, as if Buscadora's charge wasn't enough, he resorted to a self-sacrificing charge. In an instant, there was a force like riding the wind and breaking the waves, and wherever Buscadora moved, the water split in two. Oh my god, there's even such a thing, Yu Yu was astonished. But he was remarkably decisive, immediately ordering Gyarados to halt its ranged attacks like water cannon and switch back to melee combat. Apparently out of sheer pressure, Gyarados completely unleashed his full force, completely abandoning defenses thanks to his fighting attribute. His massive body immediately bound Buscadora, then repeatedly rammed its massive head into the creature's body, completely oblivious to the immense force radiating from Buscadora's struggles. This is a Pokémon battle. It's brutal. This is the Buscadora and Gyarados I know. Why do they look like two monsters? Hiss. It looks so painful. Gyarados' frenzied attack clearly frightened the onlookers. Even Dagos Fuki, the Hone champion, gasped, having expected a straightforward encounter. But he hadn't expected it to turn out this way. The feeling he got from the opponent's Gyarados was that if he didn't kill it instantly or completely, the other Pokémon would rise again and fight him, even resorting to a seemingly insane exchange of injuries. And most importantly, the opponent's Gyarados felt completely different from the average Pokémon. Of course, it wasn't about the shiny Pokémon, but the other Pokémon grew increasingly tired the more they fought, while this Gyarados' turn actually grew more and more exciting. Did you see that while Gyarados and Buscadora were locked in a fight, they even roared to the sky, their faces etched with excitement and delight? If you and the three watching girls, Serena, didn't know Gyarados well, they would have even thought it had masochistic tendencies. Gyarados Buscadora, the two Pokémon roared and snarled at each other, and after another brutal, intense exchange, Gyarados is incapacitated. Miss Joy, standing outside the arena, walked to the center of the arena, holding the red and green referee flags, and announced. After returning Gyarados to its Pokéball, Yu Yu glanced at the still standing Piscator, a fierce glint in its eyes. Then, after glancing at Gyarados' Pokéball, he decisively pulled out another. Gyarados, your efforts will not be in vain. We will continue the fight with you. Bang! The red light faded, and another massive beast appeared on the battlefield. Looking closely, who else could it be but Piscator? The other side actually has Piscator. This is really getting interesting. Dagos Fuki was surprised at the sight of the enemy's newly dispatched Pokémon. Yu, watching the sudden appearance of Piscator, was equally surprised, a bit bewildered. He wondered when he had captured Piscator, and how come he had no idea? This was the only thought that subconsciously crossed Yu's mind. But then, realizing what was happening, he shook his head and chuckled. It seems Ditto is being naughty again. Indeed, Ditto was present. Ditto, also a shiny Pokémon, naturally possesses its own hidden attribute, which Yu aptly named Perfect Transformation. As the name suggests, Ditto can mimic any Pokémon or object with 100% accuracy, transforming into an exact replica. More importantly, Ditto can transform at any time and anywhere, specifically transforming into the opponent's Pokemon the moment it's released, all in a fraction of a second. Since you have a Buscadora, I'll help you test its strength, Dagos Fuki said excitedly, even as Yu was still chuckling to himself. My pleasure, Buscadora, use Alloy Claw, Buscadora, use Alloy Claw. In order to prevent everyone from making mistakes when reading, Ditto will be used instead of Buscadora. Use Dragon Tail, use Dragon Tail, use Iron Head Technique. We'll use Iron Head Technique too, Alloy Claw again, Alloy Claw. When the two Buscadoras came into contact with each other, the trainers on both sides kept changing their orders, but the only thing in common was that no matter what skill the other side ordered to use, the other side would also follow up with the same attack order at the same time. Not bad, Yu. Your Piedras can actually keep up with mine, same here, interesting, a mirror play? Honestly, while this Piedras isn't my main Pokemon, it's still pretty formidable in my second tier. Against ordinary trainers, just sending this thing out is enough to sweep them all. I didn't expect to run into obstacles one after another today, though they'd only just fought 1 or 2 matches. Dagos Fuchi's eyes grew increasingly serious. Yu's gaze sharpened, and without further ado, he decisively ordered, Ditto, use Rock Block, Pulsatora Alloy Claw, bang, bang. Boulder's claws shattered the incoming boulders one by one. And it was during this exchange that Dagos Fuchi, the champion with his exceptional observational skills, spotted a clue. Oh. Interesting, Dagos Fuchi's eyes flickered. Then let me see if my guess is correct. Buscadora uses the Cannon Beam Cannon. Chapter 222 Earthquake. Bosk, a large ball of white energy gradually gathered in front of Buscadora's mouth. Ditto, let's use our Cannon Beam too. The two energy beams once again intersected at the center of the battle arena, colliding once more. Boom boom boom, the two extremely powerful cannon beams locked in a stalemate, emitting a dull sonic boom. The collision of the two energy beams initially led to a stalemate, but then the balance of power shifted. Buscadora roared, cranking up the energy output of his cannon beam to its maximum. The originally evenly matched cannon beam skill was instantly broken, with Buscadora's cannon beam clearly being more powerful, especially with the increased energy output. Buscadora's cannon beam grew even larger and more imposing. With the momentum of clearing mountains and building bridges across rivers, Ditto edged ever closer to his cannon beam, seemingly facing no resistance at all. Boom boom, ultimately, Ditto was defeated, and Buscadora's cannon beam hit Ditto completely. While this hit didn't cause Ditto to lose its transformation ability, it did confirm Dagos Fuki's suspicions. Hell, I guessed right. Your Buscadora wasn't a Buscadora at all. Or, to be more precise, the Pokemon you sent out must be some kind of Pokemon with the ability to instantly transform. At that moment, Dagos Fuki seemed to transform into a man from some other time and space, wearing a standard blue suit, white shirt, gray shorts, a red bow tie, and glasses. He pointed across and said something quite childish, there's only one truth. The Pokemon you sent out was either Ditto, Zoroark, or Zoroark. Yu was actually shocked. This was actually something he could guess. Don't be so amazing. However, Dagos Fuki's next words made Yu breathe a sigh of relief. So, which Pokemon is it? Fuki Dago said with a calm smile, as if he had everything under control. You want to know? Then I won't tell you yet. Yu's face was filled with a playful smile, and later, under Fuki Dago's confident gaze, he kept it a secret. As Fuki Dago's smile gradually faltered. Since you want to know, why not reveal the answer yourself? Would that be more interesting? Yu asked provocatively. Yu was stunned by Yu's words, but after realizing it, Fuki Dago smiled as expected. You're right. Instead of relying on others, it's better to rely on your own strength. Buscadora, let that imposter over there see how powerful we are. Show me his true form. Buscadora roared, slapping his armor chest. Use the destruction ray, Ditto, don't give up. We will also use the destruction ray. Boom. As the explosion sounded, the white mist produced by the explosion spread out from the center of the battlefield. Ditto, how are you? Yu shouted loudly from outside the field, his vision blocked. Rumble. Suddenly, a series of footsteps were heard, and the ground shook slightly. What's that sound? Yu listened. Bosk. Suddenly, a scream sounded in the white mist. Yu could tell that it was the cry of his own Ditto. Just when Yu was getting nervous and anxious, the white smoke slowly dissipated. At this time, Buscadora was lying on the ground with its back, and another Buscadora pounced on the other one, with a white light shining on its palm. It was impossible to tell which one was the Buscadora transformed by Ditto. "Stop playing with the Buscadora, Alloy Claws." Dagos Fuki's words brought Yu back to his senses. "Never mind, protect." At this time, Yu also clearly recognized his own Ditto, but even so, facing this precarious situation, he could only grit his teeth and stamp his feet, relying on the mentality of trying his best to transform a bicycle into a motorcycle, and issued an order that he himself was not sure of. Because Ditto's transformation skills are not omnipotent and can imitate everything. When using the skills of the transformed Pokémon, there must be a prerequisite, that is, the transformed Pokémon must itself possess that skill, otherwise it is just empty talk. But people who love to laugh will never have bad luck. Did you see Yu smiling all day long? Okay, the topic has gone a bit off. Back to the battlefield. At the critical moment when Buscadora's giant claws lit up, and were only a few centimeters away from Ditto's body was directly surrounded by the green light of practice. And at this moment, Buscadora's giant claws completely stopped above Ditto's head, unable to move forward an inch. "Buscadora, retreat quickly and use Earthquake." Seeing that things were hopeless, Daigochurugi decisively gave up and prepared for the next wave of attacks. Not good. Yu's face changed. The green energy shield of the protective skill dissipated, revealing the figure of Ditto inside. But at this moment, Buscadora, who had been prepared for a long time, raised his powerful big foot and stomped hard on the ground. The entire battlefield began to shake. In the end, as if the force was not enough, Buscadora stomped on the ground again. The ground seemed to be unable to withstand Buscadora's violent power. The battle on the already uneven and shaking battlefield became more intense. 2 deep pits even appeared where Buscadora stepped, spreading around like a spider web. Buscadora Ditto screamed in pain. Because of the transformation skill, Ditto copied the attributes of the Pokémon of the transformed Pokémon. This was a horrible blow, akin to shooting itself in the foot. Facing the ground-type earthquake, Ditto, without a moment to react, took the full brunt of the damage from this incredibly effective skill. Then, Ditto flashed, its massive form shrinking to its original size, revealing its true form. "It's Ditto." My guess was right. Dagos Fuki raised an eyebrow in triumph. "Since we already know the answer, Buscadora, let's deliver the final blow to this imposter." Jet of Fire. Chapter 223 Rocket Sparrow Defeat. Divino scorched by the blazing flames, Ditto, already suffering from the damage inflicted by earthquake, let out a few screams before its eyes darted open, completely losing its fighting ability. "Come back, Ditto. You've done well. Leave the rest to us," as Miss Joy announced. Yu retrieved Ditto into its Pokeball. While offering comfort to the now entered Ditto, Yu's mood was clearly uncertain. A bad start, a bad start. We've only just begun, and we've already lost 2 of our key generals, while the enemy hasn't even made a replacement. Facing a 1-on-2 attritional battle, that Buscadora seems incredibly energetic. Yu thought bitterly, but he didn't want Dagos Fuki to notice his anomaly. "We must not lose in momentum." "That's right, we must not lose in momentum. It's you, Rocket." Rocket similarly, upon entering the game. Just like the 2 before it, Rocket Sparrow roared with full force. It seemed to be full of energy, with a sharp look in its eyes. Although its performance after the appearance was still the same, it was already full of vigilance. The muscles on its wings were tense, and it had a solemn look ready to strike. The atmosphere on Yu's side was full of tension, but Dagos Fuki, on the other hand, was not in a hurry at all. He looked at each Pokémon Yu sent out with curiosity, and even nodded from time to time, muttering comments to himself. "Yu, I can see from these 3 Pokémon that you are really good at training Pokémon. If you are given enough time, it is not impossible for you to surpass me in 10 days. But now, the gap is still a huge gap." Yu felt quite relieved after hearing Dagos Fuki's previous words. But later, especially when he saw Dagos Fuki waving his index finger in front of him, Yu's heart darkened. "Don't be so confident, you have to try it to know. They might even say I lost on purpose after the first 2 matches." Yu remained unyielding. In his opinion, one must not lose momentum. "That's better. There's no point in talking anymore." Buscadora uses Cannonball, Rocket Sparrow uses high-speed movement to dodge, then Steel Wing. Buscadora fired the Cannonball, aiming directly at Rocket Sparrow. However, Rocket Sparrow, Worthy of being one of Yu's top 3 Pokemon in terms of speed, dodged the cannonball with a few deft maneuvers. Furthermore, fueled by high-speed movement, it advanced at a breakneck speed towards Boscadora. Ding-dang, the sound of metal clashing echoed. Facing Boscadora, Rocket, after using a Steel Wings skill, not only did not cause the slightest damage to Boscadora, but, due to its armor-like hardness, Rocket Sparrow was actually flung back. Good chance, Boscadora. Alloy Claws, Rocket Sparrow Shadow Clone, no use. Use Dragon Tail, use Spin Attack. Bang, another muffled thud echoed as Rocket Sparrow's beak pecked at a part of Boscadora not covered by armor, but still had no effect. Boscadora was a little confused. Is this still a fight? Why does it feel like a tickle? Boscadora hesitated. Even with this thought in mind, Boscadora didn't dare to slow down. With a roar, his tail behind him lashed out like a steel whip, lashing out at Rocket Sparrow. Perhaps the old saying is true, things never happen more than 3 times. You can avoid the first, but not the 15th. Rocket screamed at Boscadora's attack, attempting to evade it once more with his agility skills. Just as he had done the previous 2 times. However, his excited cry quickly degenerated into a scream, and Boscadora lashed him out, sending him sprawling to the ground. Boscadora had been anticipating another evasive move from Rocket, thus increasing the swing of its tail. Rocket, struck to the ground, grunted a few times. Under Yu's astonished gaze, his eyes bulged and he lost his fighting ability. Oh my! How did this go by so quickly? Yeah, I knew it, and I didn't even realize it. The fight's already over, I just calculated, and it didn't last more than 10 rounds, haha, what a coincidence. I just calculated, too. Excluding the time the 2 trainers chatted, this battle was resolved in 2 to 3 minutes. The onlookers were also stunned, their voices circling. No one had expected that the fierce battles of the previous 2 matches would end so quickly with Rocket, Yu shouted unconsciously, his feeling at that moment being completely bewildered. He'd lost his ability to fight. I was sure I wasn't dreaming. One strike, just one strike, had knocked Rocket to the ground. Though it was difficult to accept, Yu had to face the harsh reality. At that moment, the momentum Yu had just gathered seemed to be shattered by the lash of the dragon's tail. In silence, Yu slowly took out Rocket's Pokeball and snatched it away. Hey, Yu. Do you need a break? At this moment, Dago's Fuki on the opposite side, seemingly oblivious to Yu's emotion, shouted towards him. No. I can still go. In a regular match, when one team loses 3 Pokemon first, there's a break to allow both trainers to recover. Yu knew this. But seeing the relaxed and comfortable look on the other side of Fuki Dago, Yu had no intention of admitting defeat. Well, since you're fine with that, I'm fine with that too. Go ahead. Send out your next Pokemon, Fuki Dago, unfazed, gestured to Yu across from him. Don't be startled. It's Charmeleon's turn. Yu tossed a red and white Pokeball. Riza, as the red light faded, Charmeleon roared with fighting spirit. The flames on its tail burned even more fiercely, and the 2 tiny flames in its black gemstone-like eyes grew larger. At that moment, the flame marks on its body seemed to ignite, especially the one on its forehead, which resembled a pulsating crimson lotus fire that threatened to consume everything in the world. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 224, The Battle of Fire Dinosaurs. Riza, looking at the Boscadora across from him, poised and ready to attack at any moment, Charmeleon's fighting spirit was boiling. With a roar, a jet of flame followed, launching itself into the pitch-black night sky, a dazzling display. This is just... Charmeleon, looking at the strange Charmeleon across from him, its flame markings glowing red in the darkness, even the knowledgeable Hone champion, Dago's Fuki, hesitated, uncertain. This wasn't entirely Dago's Fuki's fault. When Yu captured Charmander, it was still quite normal, even a bit weak before then. However, after Yu's capture, its strength not only skyrocketed, but it also became a constant winner in daily battles. Furthermore, in the previous battle with Houndoom, Charmander had been purified to its limits, perhaps explaining the mutation after evolving into Charmeleon. Just as Dago's Fuchi was still puzzled by Charmeleon's appearance and behavior, Yiyu's next words confirmed his suspicions. "I'll give Charmeleon a good fight today. Go ahead, use Flame Jet." Yiyu didn't intend to waste any more words and immediately gave the order as Charmeleon appeared. Really? What kind of weirdos does Yiyu have? Aside from that normal Rocket Sparrow, the others are either rare or shiny, and all of them are incredibly powerful. Fuchi Dago sighed silently, finally adding, "What a lucky guy." His thoughts raced as he watched Charmeleon, who had already launched his attack, and he gave the order, "Buscadora, give them a welcome gift. Use Rock Block, Charmer, use Split and Dragon Tail to defend." Facing the Rock Block, the fire type's Flame Spray was clearly ineffective. The barrage of boulders forced Yiyu to halt Charmeleon's Flame Spray and shift to defense. Charmeleon dodged the Rock Block with agile maneuvers, using both its hands and tail to intercept the boulders. Each time a flash of white and emerald light appeared, the boulders shattered in the next instant. Since distance isn't working, let's go for the close quarters. Buscadora, use the Alloy Claws. Charmer, let's go too, and use the Split. After both sides gave the orders, a bizarre scene unfolded on the field. Two figures, one large and one small, appeared. The larger one, running, was as massive as a speeding locomotive, while the smaller one, facing it, looked like a bicycle poised to be knocked off its feet at any moment. Despite their different sizes, their goal was the same, to defeat the other. Lisa, with a fire of fighting spirit in its eyes that seemed to materialize, Charmer suddenly accelerated mid-sprint. When still some distance away from Buscadora, Charmer pushed off the ground with both legs and leaped forward in a test attack, launching the Split and Dragon Tail attacks directly at Buscadora. The experience gained from countless battles over this period of time had made Charmer no longer the rookie it once was. With extensive combat experience, it knew it had no chance of success against a Buscadora, several times its size. Therefore, it thought of using the power generated by the sudden downpour to counter Buscadora's might. This led to the series of actions just now. Oh, this Charmeleon is quite clever. It even thought of using its geographical advantage to compensate for its own shortcomings. Fuchi Dago immediately saw what Charmeleon was thinking, but he didn't rush to give orders to Buscadora. Instead, he muttered to himself with interest. As the distance between the two Pokémon grew closer, even though he had seen through his opponent's intentions, Fuchi Dago, the trainer, remained unmoved. Buscadora, on the other hand, suddenly stopped its forward momentum just as it was about to make contact with Charmeleon. Its giant claws, which had once glowed white, were replaced by a white helmet covering its head. Indeed, Buscadora once again used its Iron Head skill, giving up on using its giant claws to counter Charmeleon's follow-up attack and instead using its own head. Watching Buscadora's sudden change of tactics, Charmeleon, still in midair, curled its lips slightly, as if victory was certain. Clang, but as the sound of metal clashing echoed, Charmeleon's smile froze. He felt a tremendous force radiate from beneath him, and then his body flew backward like a sack. "How is this possible?" Yiyu exclaimed in shock. But the battle wasn't over yet. The moment Charmeleon was sent flying, Buscadora burst into action once again. Yiyu recognized this as a self-sacrificing charge. Still in midair, Charmeleon had no leverage to dodge, and could only watch helplessly as Buscadora charged toward him. "Rizza!" A scream echoed from Charmeleon's mouth. Its body, already launched into the air, was struck once more. The force was so powerful it hadn't been paying attention, sending Charmeleon flying out of the arena. In contrast, Buscadora simply appeared to be a completely unharmed Pokémon. If Charmeleon hadn't been knocked out of the arena, it would have seemed ready to press home the victory. How is that possible? After Buscadora uses a move like self-sacrificing charge, should it also take the rebound damage? Why does it look so fine now? Yiyu didn't have time to ponder the reason for this. He hurried outside the arena to help Charmeleon up. "Charmeleon, are you okay? Let me see your injuries." Yiyu's eyes were filled with worry, and he instinctively wanted to check Charmeleon's injuries. Lizzie, but as he reached out, a small but powerful arm grabbed hold of him. Using Yiyu's body, Charmeleon stood back up, tilting its head slightly to meet Yiyu's eyes, then shook his head to indicate he could still fight. Yiyu's eyes reflected Charmeleon's sparks, which hadn't extinguished but instead grew even more intense. At this moment, the man and the pet seemed to be in tune with each other, and there was only each other in their eyes. Chapter 225, The Giant Gold Monster Appears. "Charmer, Lisa Yu couldn't help but whisper Charmer's name. Charmer nodded his head in response. Though the movement was gentle, it was filled with determination. All right. I understand. Go ahead, Charmer, let's have a good fight without regrets, Lisa Charmer shouted, taking a firm step back into the fray. Buscadora, use sacrifice charge and defeat him once and for all. Let's end this meaningless battle quickly. Dago's Fuki seemed a little impatient. Charmera, use smoke, then dragon tail. A black mist emanated from Charmer's mouth, soon enveloping both him and Buscadora, who had used sacrifice charge. Due to the interference of the black mist, Buscadora's aim shifted slightly, and the sacrifice charge and Charmer's dragon tail collided. Perhaps due to its larger size and greater power, it was more powerful. Charmeleon, driven by inertia, leaned backward. Meanwhile, Buscadora launched another self-sacrificing charge. This time, without the previous panic and nervousness, Yu easily understood the reason. Therefore, he devised the following countermeasures. Charmeleon, use jet flame on the ground. Then, smoke, and then dragon's fury. Suddenly, the jet of flame from Charmeleon's mouth, like a high-pressure jet, instantly lifted Charmeleon into the air, avoiding a head-on collision with Buscadora. Before Buscadora could react, a cloud of black mist suddenly appeared above it, obscuring its vision. Don't be timid, Buscadora. Use the stone attack to blanket the black mist. Dago's Fuki was remarkably decisive, not wasting any time, intent on using this tactic to force Charmeleon out. Swish, swish, with a sound of sharp stones ripping through the air, the cloud of smoke in the sky dispersed in the blink of an eye. But just as Dago's Fuki was about to issue another order, he spotted Charmeleon somewhere in the sky. Even with the moonlight shining down in the darkness and the streetlights lining the surrounding battlefield, Charmeleon wasn't visible, as if it had vanished. You're blind. Charmeleon, it's time for us to strike back. Unleash Dragon's Fury. At that moment, Buscadora felt his vision go dark. Though fighting in darkness, he could still see the scenery ahead thanks to the surrounding floodlights, but now the light seemed to be obscured. Then, Buscadora saw a figure growing larger and larger, followed closely by a Dragon's Fury attack. To catch Buscadora by surprise, Charmeleon increased the intensity of its flames while blasting them towards the floor, placing itself directly within Buscadora and Dago's Fuki's blind spot. The cover of darkness and the earlier diversionary smoke cloud allowed Charmeleon's plan to proceed smoothly. Because of its sheer surprise, Buscadora and Dago's Fuki had no time to react, and Dragon's Fury landed a perfect, unerring hit on Buscadora. Finally, as if Dragon's Fury wasn't enough, Charmeleon unleashed a 180-degree tail swing, lashing out forcefully at Buscadora's head. His stone head is impressive, huh? But after this attack, I'll see if you're truly that formidable. Yu folded his arms across his chest, looking completely composed, even letting out a few smug, yet provocative laughs. Before this, Buscadora had been able to unleash such relentless and reckless self-sacrificing charges. This was because it possessed the Stonehead trait, a trait that effectively shielded it from the backlash of potentially damaging skills. Oh. You have quite a wealth of knowledge about Pokémon. It seems you learned well in school. Today, I'll teach you a lesson about how theoretical knowledge can be enriched, but not always put into practice, without a sense of danger. Dago's Fuki was intrigued. Huh? I don't think so. Yu remained confident in his Pokémon. Charmeleon clearly lived up to Yu's trust. With Dragon's Fury and Dragon's Tail, even Buscadora, with its impressive defense, felt a bit disoriented. Wow, its defense is surprisingly strong. It's still capable of fighting even in this state. A sudden flash of inspiration struck Yu, and he immediately ordered, Charmeleon, use Flame Vortex to trap Buscadora, then rotate around Buscadora and use Flame Spray. Buscadora, use Sand Throw. Sensing trouble, Dago's Fuki realized his carelessness and was about to order a remedial action. Unfortunately, he was a step too slow. The raging flames had already swirled in circles, engulfing Buscadora. Charmeleon was now like a millstone, its flames surging relentlessly. Faced with the extraordinary effectiveness of Flame Spray, even a powerful being like Buscadora finally couldn't withstand it. With Charmeleon's final Flame Spray, Buscadora, which had previously defeated Yu's 3 Pokémon, finally collapsed to the ground like Ditto, its eyes swirling and unable to fight. Come back, Buscadora. Dago's Fuki took out the Pokéball, but his face was still expressionless, as if he didn't care about Buscadora's defeat at all. You, I have to say that you are really amazing. According to my estimate, Buscadora should be enough to withstand all the Pokemon in your hand, but I didn't expect you to defeat it. Then as a reward, I will also send out the strongest Pokemon in my hand to fight you. What? The strongest Pokemon? Yu was completely shocked, and the corners of his mouth began to twitch involuntarily. This Buscadora, which was not his main force, had already beaten 3 of his Pokemon in a row. Now he finally defeated it, but Dagos Fuchi actually said that he would send out his main Pokemon and the strongest one among the main forces. Come out. The strongest partner of the Hone champion with me, Metagross. End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.